पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
Welcome, friends, to another podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age. That's further supported by the Holy Masters, perfect saints and noble mystics of Sant today. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble part of Sant, or part of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics in every age, who are themselves the true representative of the Supreme Lord even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path or true way encompasses all true faiths and beliefs as the noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers or YouTube channel, as well as in the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk.com. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we are and what we represent today. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTA for short. And although now global, we originally set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Sawan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, as well as the Levant and Persia. Now our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially for the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is the real truth. Yet this high teaching is not new. It is the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the Holy Truth of Sant, which in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the familiar religions or philosophical teachings that we all know. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy are only there to elevate the masses to the position of higher truth seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion. Therefore, our mission here today is simple: to impart the very highest truth of the Supreme Lord to those who wish to know, with all the love, grace and wonder that such a gift entails. Now for those who do listen and do take heed, Holy Masters tell us that they are indeed the most fortunate ones of humanity. As for myself, I am a sincere devotee of the very highest truth of Sant, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise or reward, as I only act with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself and the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life and creation for the modern age. I humbly ask, therefore, as one who has been gifted with true knowledge of that high truth, and as one who lives in the Supreme Lord's will, that I offer my humble demonstration and knowledge to all who seek the same. Now, as a friend on this noble path to God realization, I simply ask that you put aside my human form and instead listen to and take heed of the loving message that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role to become true noble once again by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom direct from the true Lord itself, for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth. In this way, I am a humble servant and a perfect friend, whom the true Lord has gifted with direct knowledge of the holy truth, which I have been asked to share with you. So although I shall speak with the authority of one who has been instructed to do so by the Supreme Lord, please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble servant in any way, for you too are all divine beings undergoing a human experience in this lifetime, though you may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me freely by the highest authority, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you. Now, for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly via email or video by first subscribing to our valuable information service at ISTAuk.com and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrators. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual questions within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and sheer number of inquiries. So thank you. Now, as is the tradition here, we always start the new year with a special message from the Supreme Lord. And this year, it is about the reality of following a mass belief system like religion versus experiential spirituality like Sant. Now, this insight was certainly inspired by the many queries I received regarding the authenticity of the key holy books of our age and of the countless speakers on religion, spirituality, or philosophy so prevalent on the internet today. Such a minefield of information and philosophy, each claiming to be the way, only serves to confuse people even more through untestable statements. In most cases, they are very thin on true knowledge. In other cases. So, with regards to the many speakers and authors today who say that they know the real truth of the mysteries of life and creation, and even regards to the mainstream belief systems of most societies today, such as religions of the world, based upon the early writings of holy books and scriptures, which are often taken literally, allow me to clarify all of this a little further, for truth's sake, hopefully without offending anyone in their beliefs. Now, whilst I realize that this information may be a little basic for some, For those new to spirituality versus mainstream religion or philosophy, this information may significantly clarify many troubling points, hopefully provoking further thoughts or appreciation on the matter. Now, the first observation to make is that no one alive today actually knows firsthand how we got the past holy books we cherish today. Indeed, no one alive today was actually present when they were written or their religions founded. The Westerners, for example, got their Holy Bible thanks to the efforts of the Catholic and Coptic churches. Scholars from these founding churches actually wrote or compiled the text of the Bible in the order, format, and inclusion seen today. There's no disputing that historically. Indeed, no one can sanely claim that the holy books we have today mysteriously descended from, say, heaven or nirvana, etc., onto a table or altar on earth by miraculous means. No one claims that, even historically. So they must have been put together or penned by traditional writing methods, and with contents chosen or excluded by an unknown author and compiler. Though historic accounts, records, and simple archaeology give us the clue of a very human intervention here, despite what the lay public or masses would like to believe. For example, the Old Testament of the Jewish books of Moses were not finally decided upon until around 100 CE, Common Era, at the meeting of the Jewish Synod in Jamnia in Palestine. That's 1500 years after their supposed first writing. At that meeting, the scholars decided which texts were to be finally included in the Hebrew scriptures and which were not, the earliest copy of which dates back from the early 10th century Common Era CE. Similarly, the texts to be included in the New Testament of the Christian Bible were not finally decided upon until the year 382 CE, Common Era, at the Synod of Rome under Pope Damasus. At that time, it was the Catholic Church in the West that famously said, "We are giving you these scriptures on our authority," not on authority of God, but on our authority, and by the authority of the informal tradition that has existed among us from the very beginning, inspired by the Holy Spirit, they say. So the Holy Bible content was historically conceived, actually by the Catholic Church's say-so, under the presumed guidance of what they call the Holy Spirit. They further claim that they have the single authority to interpret the Bible too, above all others. Now you can take that on faith as you weren't actually there, or you can leave it as per your preference, even though this bold claim is not necessarily the actual truth. But that doesn't seem to matter for most, since most so-called religious people, even today, are not really interested in the truth. They just want to belong somewhere popular, so as to be accepted in their society. Obviously, based upon this historic account, the authority of the Bible is not based upon the Bible's content itself. You see, anyone can write a holy book and state within that book that it is indeed the Word of God, which they divinely conceived. And others are at liberty to believe it or not. Hindus, for example, similarly believe that their Vedas, or the later Gita, were divinely revealed and inspired, with just as much zeal as any Christian or Jew, for example, believe in theirs. Likewise, Muslims believe the Holy Quran was divinely inspired in just the same way. And again, most Buddhists believe that their sutras, or the Pali Canon, the sacred text of the Buddhists, are also divine, or rather Buddhic, mindfulness origin. So how can we judge today whether a text written centuries ago was divinely inspired or not? Of course, we can't be certain for sure, since we were not present at the time, And unlike in science, where theories can be tested, there's no way of finding out by ordinary people if their ancient holy texts are true, in a normal way of establishing authenticity. If one wants to argue about which version of the spiritual truth is the correct one, we will always end up in an argument without conclusion or certainty, since none were present and none actually today know for sure. Indeed, by what standards can one judge which teacher, prophet, saint, incarnation or guru was the greatest? In most cases, one judges by the sort of moral standards that one has been brought up by in a particular culture that's based on biased truth. Within most cultures, there is almost nobody who is impartial to their upbringing, and who can thus decide capably between all the religions or mass belief systems, since in one way or another, all are influenced by the culture they belong to. But real truth is universal, cosmological or divine, and not cultural. So if the Christian Church, for example, says that the Bible is entirely true, or the Hindu institutions say that their Vedas are all true, and so on, it finally comes down to what you, the listener, wish to believe, in the absence of actual proof. Incidentally, if no one believes a cultural belief, then that belief system no longer has any authority, for it is the followers or believers who ultimately give authority to any belief system. Indeed, at the end of the day, it is always the people who give any belief system authority, not the creators of that belief system or its institutions. Without the backing of the people, in the form of followers or believers, then what authority does a system have in the eyes of the masses? Now, historically, in order to keep dissenters in line, fear tactics were employed fairly early on in most faiths seen today, to stop people straying off their cultural following, often by saying that hell awaits them, or that punishment will be given for non-believers, or even bad luck will befall the unbelievers, etc., to keep them in line. Generally speaking, this tactic works very well, because everyone understands suffering, so they get the point. Whether it is true or not, of course, doesn't really matter for most. Only a very few rare ones or extraordinary people actually seek the real truth firsthand, by looking for a living someone who actually knows that truth firsthand, who can help them find the same for themselves, not by mere blind belief, but through actual personal experience and true intuition, inner intuition. That's why there is a famous saying by philosophers that says, people get what they deserve, whereby genuine truth seekers, for example, eventually get that truth by divine or universal cosmic law, while cultural believers, or even non-believers in anything, simply get what they believe, which most likely provides a certain comfort or relief from the difficulties of their daily life. No proof is needed for them, only blind faith, as everyone else who shares their views are blind too. For none have ever actually seen that truth that they blindly follow. Believers may say that God itself is the authority, but how does one get to see that for certain in mainstream belief systems? It's just an opinion, really. But then they may say, just you wait and see when you die and are judged as to what the truth is. But who has ever come back from the dead to tell us that they made it or not, using their system? In fact, in mainstream beliefs, there is no evidence for anything they are saying or promising. It's just a matter of belief, which you can either take or leave. Now, of course, one may indeed believe that the holy books of their religion are wholly true, and that they were actually dictated by God directly. But that is their opinion. There is no actual proof. Naturally, we can't deny anyone's right to hold on to their mass beliefs. But real truth seekers would like to test this for themselves. It must be said, however, that there is no smoke without fire, and so, in most cases, divine inspiration of some sort is highly likely to be the source of the current holy books, which is why they appeal to the heart, to the deeper heart, not just the fickle mind. But that is very different from having an exact dictation or recording, since no one recorded anything at that time, as history and archaeology has shown. Only the gist may be later remembered and possibly recorded, which were then in turn scholarly put together into texts we see today, none of which is the work of God directly. It's just an interpretation. However, it must be further explained that true inspiration does not come in words, as mentioned by the enlightened ones both historically and today. Nevertheless, when asked to explain what the enlightened ones saw or heard, mere words have to be used. But that's the problem, you see. How does one write into words the visions or extrasensory perceptions they actually witnessed? Thus, stories and parables were often used historically to give an idea of what the enlightened ones saw or perceived, but which are not to be taken literally, only figuratively to convey an idea of it. The next problem is that any information that is translated into words is liable to be distorted in some way, since only telepathy and perceptions are used to communicate in higher regions, not words, which has a far greater range of expression than mere words can offer. So, when translated into text, different interpretations or meanings can be had. Hence the many variations found in religious texts describing the same experiences by different authors. Furthermore, for those who have visions, etc., some of the revelations, the way they are portrayed, depends on how the receiver was educated, what were or are the norms of their society they refer to, and what level of scholarly ability did they or do they have. These problems are very real difficulties to overcome for speakers or writers even today. Therefore, anyone who receives divine inspiration has the problem of translation into words without losing the full truth or full meaning of it. And that's the problem with all texts, especially those of the past, which is why, for example, Babaji of Bias in India says that we should burn all the books as they are misleading, while Ishwarji in America decided not to write much, only speak it out for better clarity, as sentiment and tone can be used in speech better than in text. He further said that mere dabblers of the divine arts of, say, lower level revelations could also be called divine revelations, as seen today by numerous authors who say they were divinely inspired, yet their lifestyle and their writings don't often display a higher knowing, only perhaps a knowing of something just above physical existence, if that. Indeed, divine inspiration, even by many speakers or so-called authorities on the subject today, can only explain such things with the language ability that he or she knows, meaning what sort of terms are available to them, and what kind of cultural expression were they brought up in. For example, in the Christian Bible, if the Christian Bible is their only background, for they never read the Vedas or the Buddhist sutras or even science books or worldly philosophy, then there is no other way they can express their knowledge or feelings other than through Christian concepts, which means it is limited in some way to their culture, upbringing, or knowledge base. Any other culture may struggle to get their meaning, or may not even understand the words they are using, if from another language. This further adds to the problems mentioned earlier concerning the communication of revelations, both past and present, and the written records of the past. Now, to get to the point of this, in sharp contrast to the religions and philosophies of the past, and even some new ones today, true spirituality is actually experiential in its practice, not merely informative. In fact, through sincere spiritual practice, one never needs to read any scripture or to make actual progress. They may only need to listen to or read simple instructions, as the emphasis here is on personal verification of the truth, both externally and internally. Externally refers to the little miracles that happen to us when we place our full faith in the Lord or Master, which are very personal, timely, and coincidental in nature, that are frequently repeated against all odds, and that also defy logical explanation. Internally refers to accessing the I center within your head by withdrawing, not focusing, your attention to the point where the source of consciousness expands into an otherwise lifeless body, and is located in the center of the head just above the eyes, known as the seat of consciousness. By this method alone, no matter what your background, religion, or knowledge base may be, can you truly discover all the mysteries described in the holy books, discourses, etc., as well as defining your own personal life story. There is simply no other way to discover the high truth of God, life, and creation for sure, for yourself, no matter how clever you may be, no matter how much you build in this life, and no matter how much is your status in life. If the need arises within you to know the high truth for yourself, then divine intervention is there to help, via the living example of a holy master, perfect saint, or noble mystic, who is the egoless, selfless, and compassionate representative of the Supreme Lord, that has the authority and the ability to awaken your inner vision and wisdom. Indeed, in all areas of humanity, no one has ever attained true enlightenment by any other means. Hence the great many often obscure references to this greatest of blessings over the centuries that the purely spiritual, discreet literature speaks of. Now, this awakening can happen to any sincere practitioner who qualifies as a disciple of a perfect living master, who then goes on to put real effort into their inquiry or practice at any time, and for no reason that anybody can determine that they can become suddenly enlightened. But when this awakening happens to a lesser or greater degree, it hits you profoundly, and hence you will never doubt again, or will never feel alone from that moment on, and will no longer hold on to misery in your heart, your dear companion that has followed with you all your life thus far. Holy masters call this grace of the Lord or Master, and there is no mistaking it. It is true grace. It has nothing to do with you, actually, other than you placing your attention on seeking the highest truth. The first thing you will find upon this awakening is that you have grossly mistaken your identity. What you thought was you looking back at you in the mirror is just a big act or a big show, a superficial imposter who, until now, you place so much faith in and attention towards, for ultimately nothing. It also becomes perfectly clear why everything is the way it is, and that everything you are doing is part of a wider plan of creation, which begins to unfold before you little by little at first, or indeed rapidly, depending upon your level of passion to discover the holy truth for yourself. It all happens quite automatically, just like breathing, which makes you realize that nothing is in your control actually. It is all just a play of the divine, in which you are now the center of attention and glory. You thus feel comforted and relieved that your physical life is just a dream, good or bad, that you can let go of while fulfilling your karmic obligations and role. Immense gratitude too fills your heart, for you know for sure that you will be safe in the end. Thus you feel immense compassion for struggling others in the world, and wish to help as much as karmic law will allow. you will see that in every way, each one is helplessly playing their part in this colossal cosmic drama of creation. So how can you possibly judge them or think ill of them? You can only feel compassion for them through knowing their plight, and may even help them if they are ready. You will finally get to realize that you are an eternal something, even if that something is not yet defined for you, yet you are eternal. As you have only just began the great adventure of your true discovery, an incredible marvel that never leaves you from that point on, I can assure you. Putting all this into context, in comparing endless blind faith, religions, practices, or ever-changing philosophy with true direct experience of spirituality, let's do a simple thought experiment to see the difference. Imagine you're riding on a train, a very beautiful train you feel, but the train has no final destination. It just keeps going around in scenic circles, sometimes passing through day, sometimes through night, which are the light and dark periods of your life. How long would it take for a lesser evolved human being to realize what is happening? Well, that depends on their level of awareness, does it not? Now, for a more aware individual, after not too long a time in comparison, they would certainly conclude that there is something fundamentally wrong with this type of train that leads nowhere except traversing through endless experiences, both good, bad, or indifferent, without a destination. They would come to realize that they must get on a train ride or life journey that has a destination or life purpose. Else, what are they here for? It's just like that for intelligent life on Earth. There must be a purpose to it, else, after a while, it all becomes meaningless and negative, resulting in negative reactions that lead to further consequences, or circles on a train, using the analogy, with no end to it. This undermines the whole process of going on a journey. It undermines the whole reasoning for traveling, does it not? For there must be a destination in any journey. Now, if one jumps with great courage off the merry-go-round train that has no destination, and instead jumps onto the destination train, then every moment, good or bad, of the train journey now becomes meaningful and somehow less problematic, and even more interesting too, for it takes us ever closer to our goal as a human traveler, as a human being. In other words, you can't just exist for no purpose. There must be a reason to it all, else you would not have been granted a reasoning, analyzing ability, unless it's for a purpose. So, my friends and co-travelers in this lifetime, what are you waiting for? Seek the real truth sincerely, and get on a truth train ride. For that truth shall set you free, and you shall see all for yourself. That is the difference between blind belief religion and ever-changing philosophy, and a true destination of spirituality. Now, that ends this New Year message for today, and thank you for your patient listening. May the true Lord bless you all. Let's now begin with the question and answer session.
Thank you. Today's theme for this satsang is spirituality and religion. I've got a few questions around spirituality and religion to start with. Sant teaches us about the transmigration of 8,400,000 species. However, most religions do not talk about this matter at all. At most, one or two religions speak about reincarnation only. Why does religion deviate so much from true spirituality?
You see, as hinted at during this earlier discourse, and in the past through the many satsangs we've conducted here, religion has a different role to spirituality. In fact, they're not even in competition, although some people like to think so. See, religion is there for the masses who want to belong to a cultural belief system, not necessarily wanting the truth. They want their version of the truth. Now, this version of the truth is called mindfulness, mindful truth. So, because they invested so much energy into the character they're playing in this life, and not the soul, not the actual truth of their origin, religions have formed around this concept of satisfying the mind and pleasing the mind. Now, there's because the mind is so extensive, going all the way up to the causal realm, the idea of how to, let's say, satisfy this mind in infinite ways up to the causal realm has been devised by the lord of the mind, we call Kal, or the negative power. We call it a negative power because it stops us from connecting with our soul, the real truth, and therefore it doesn't allow us to go back to our true home of love, happiness, and bliss, and all the wonderful things you read in the holy books. So, an adventure is created by the mind. And this adventure goes through many phases, many types of life forms. In the books, they describe 8,400,000 lives, or 84 lakh, or they call it 84 lakh lives in Punjabi. And these are well known in the Indian religions, and not so much in Western religions. Because in India, they had a lot of yogis who studied the mind quite extensively and were able to travel within the mind realms and see all this. So then they said that yes, there are 8,400,000 species that we traverse through before we reach the human form, and that the human form is the highest among them. Even greater, they say, than the deities and the lords of those realms, which is interesting because if you ask the average human being today, they would say, no, we are very low life in comparison to the gods we worship and the deities we praise, because we're suffering this miserable existence. But I have to tell you, and I have said this before, that any of the astral beings and even the deities of creation would give up their entire power, wealth base, and life just for the worst day of your life here on earth as a human being. And that's an extraordinary statement to make. These gods and goddesses who live in this absolute luxury, why would they want to give all that up for the worst day of your life? The thing is that it's not the worst day that they're interested in, it's the fact that you're human. And as a human being, you are uniquely placed in the entire creation, which is why they say that man is made in God's image, is that you're uniquely placed to question everything and to make choices, meaning you're ignorant of what's to come in the next minute or so. You don't even know what's going to happen in the next 10 seconds. So because of this, you have to make something called choice, because it's not all laid out in front of you. Now, this process of choice making causes one to have faith or non-faith in whatever they're doing. Now, faith doesn't exist in the higher realms at all, because what is there to be faithful about? They have the entire story laid out before them, and they know exactly where they're going to be in 100 years' time, let alone the next minute or 10 seconds. Human beings don't. So therefore, they have to make choices based upon something called faith and trust without actually knowing. And that's quite a remarkable thing, because it doesn't exist anywhere else in creation. Now, because we're making that choices, when we make a choice which is for our own spiritual betterment or recognizing the higher authority of the Supreme Lord, that carries merit. And this merit earns grace. And grace means that there is an excuse for the Lord to send its Savior to rescue us. So this whole system has been set up within the karmic system, because the karmic system is a trap in which you react to whatever comes your way, create more karma, and then have to come back to deal with that. And you keep on the merry-go-round, like I said, the merry-go-round train forever, which is the karmic train. But if you get off that train and jump onto a destination train, or one that's actually taking you to somewhere, at the end of the day, then you don't mind suffering. Because what is it? What of it? It's going to pass by and you're going to carry on. You're heading home. Who cares? Like when you all leave here, let's say there's a heavy storm outside. No matter what the weather's throwing at you, you're not put off. Your mind is focused on going home. But imagine if you had nowhere to go in particular. The entire world was open to you. You could walk this way or that way equally. Then the storm would bother you. Because you'll be thinking, what am I going to do in this storm? But when you have a destination, everything changes. And that's the remarkable thing about spirituality. It gives you a destination. A destination that means that you can cope with all the difficulties of life quite easily. Because now you understand that it's only temporary. It's only a timeline of events that you're passing through. And therefore don't give them any energy and don't react. So that's the process of spirituality. And during this journey, you have to cross many life forms, many different stages, and these have been variously recorded in the holy books and by the yogis. And this involves obviously reincarnation, but some of the books, the Abrahamic faiths, for example, the books of the desert, the Arabs, they don't really go into this kind of detail because the people there were very basic. They were tribal people living in a desert. They only knew how to tend to camels or goats and maybe grow olives. That was it. There was no real higher level of thinking. So the religions that appeared in the desert tribal peoples were very basic, saying do good things and you'll go to heaven. No more details explained. Yeah. So the concept of heaven, hell, and doing good things and having sins was simply laid down, which is the same thing as karma, but they just didn't go into any detail about it. That's why it's missing. This question was asking why it's not mentioned in all of the books and so on. But that's why it's missing from there. And that's why those religions, the religions of the desert people, are different to the religions of, say, India and the East, who have a much more philosophical, deep thinking mode, because their cultural lifestyle was different. So hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. Next question. Is Buddhism spirituality, philosophy, or a religion?
Well, depending on who you speak to, it's all three. It's a kind of spirituality. I mean, everything is spiritual in the end. Even learning of physics in school is a low level of spirituality because you're learning the rule of matter. Yeah. So everything comes under spirituality to start with, but it's different degrees. Now, Buddhism, by Buddhists themselves, they don't consider it to be a religion in the sense that there is a God that they aim for. They talk Buddhist mindfulness, and that comes under the section of philosophy, because it's all about the mind, how to attain the purest and highest state of the mind and live in this pure mind realm called nirvana. So I would say that the Buddhists would agree, if they had to pick one, that it would be a philosophy, not a religion.
Thank you. When will we see an end to religion and a rise to spirituality?
Well, you see, this century we started the Dwapar Yuga since 2012, which is the age of the first spiritual growth of humankind for a very long time. So one could say that it will happen this century. Religions will slowly decline and spirituality, or spiritual science actually, will take over. It will be classed as spiritual science. And that will be the new norm after 2055. Up until then, religions will prevail. But after that, religions will become more of a folklore following that you were born into. I was born to a particular culture. They were Christians, they were Muslims, they were Buddhists. But that will no longer be a mainstream activity. It will be something which is ancestral in heritage for your particular culture. Whereas spiritual science will be taught everywhere, even in schools. That there is boundaries to knowledge. So for example, you have physical knowledge, then you have metaphysical knowledge, and then you have higher spiritual knowledge, and so on. So it'll be divided up into groups, and that will come this century. So hopefully that answered the question for them.
Thank you. Can becoming a good Christian or Sikh make me as happy and content as being on the highest spiritual path?
You see, there are many people who are following a religion and they seem happy, or they feel that they're happy, because happiness is relative. For a person who gets a meal every day, who normally is starving, they're really happy. But for a king, he says, so what of it? He says, just a meal. I want a palace to sit in that, eat that meal. I don't want to just eat a meal. So you tell me what happiness means relative to the individual. So happiness is a relative state. That's why there are many levels of satisfaction. So for example, religions satisfy those who want to belong to a culture, the society. They don't really want to know the truth, because that's hard work. They simply want to belong to something. If there's a particular deity, they point to him and say, hey, God, Lord of all this, help me and so on. They're happy because everybody else is pointing to the same God, even so they don't know what that God is, really. Just a picture on a wall or an idol. So that makes them happy. So if you ask these religious people, are you happy? In a general term, they say yes. But then if you ask them, but do you still worry? Do you still worry about things? Are you still suffering with ill health and personal misfortunes and difficulties? Do you feel the stresses of life? They say, yeah, sure. Then you would say as a spiritual person, I don't think you're happy then. I think you're deluded, but you're not happy. Yeah? So it's relative to the observer.
But then some people get into their religion down to family, it's been passed down.
Yeah.
And then you also get those who question it.
Yeah.
And that's when I guess the contentment
The questioning starts, but then usually if they question it, that always leads to leaving. Because when you really start, if you're in a position to start questioning your religion, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Because if it was perfect, there would be no question. So everything starts off with questioning. Questioning is good, which is why we've been given that reasoning ability as human beings, to question everything, take nothing on blind faith. Question it until it makes sense in the heart, fully. Then practice it to see it for yourself. This is the difference in spirituality. Spirituality demands verification. No one who teaches spirituality says, just believe me because I'm telling you.
Yeah.
They say, firstly, does it make sense what I'm telling you? He said, sure. I said, now you have a reason to practice to find out. I said, that's still not the end. I said, that's where religions take it. Say, okay, this sounds pretty good. I like the idea of having this all-supreme God who's going to take care of me after death, no matter what I do. Great, right? All I have to do is follow a few rituals, chanting here, a bit of prayer there, attend some holy places, and I'm saved. But for a spiritual person, they say, well, how do I know that? I want to see now while I'm alive. If there is this almighty God that created us with awareness and intelligence and reasoning, surely he must allow us to have a preview, even a glimpse, of where we're heading and what it's all about. And spirituality says, actually, yes, there is. So the enlightened ones who've had that preview glimpse and more, they say, yeah, you're right to question this, right? And it's not wrong to question. Now you have to put a practice to see all this for yourself. Then you become a knower, not a believer. A believer doesn't need proof. He says, I believe this no matter what. A knower says, I have proof that this exists. I'm not telling you from belief. I know. There's a big difference. So knowers of the truth, we call them the enlightened ones. These are people who have first-hand experience. And if you go to them, they will tell you the truths far beyond any of the recorded texts. Not only that, when they speak, they satisfy you completely in the heart, even if the mind doesn't like it. Your mind might say, no, I don't accept this. But the heart says, you know what? This rings deep resonance within the truth in me. Because everybody carries the truth within them. It's just a question of waking it up. And how that's woken up is by hearing it. When the brain and the mind hears the truth, something stirs deep within. Now, if the mind is powerful in that one, they say, no, but I belong to this religion or that religion. I can't think of anything else. The mind blocks them. But if they really are honest with themselves, when anybody hears the real truth, they recognize it. Whether they like it or not is another matter. That's a totally different subject. But the truth is the truth. And that's one thing that we all have as human beings, no matter what we follow, what we believe in. Even if we don't believe in anything, everybody recognizes the real truth because it resonates within them. It shakes them up. Now, for some people, they don't want to hear that truth because it shakes them up too much. They think, oh, you're destroying my entire life. I belong to this culture. I have this beliefs. I go around running around the world doing all these savor activities. And you're telling me it's all pointless if I don't seek the truth? yeah, this is just a culture of you just belong to a society. Have your fun. This is fun. But don't think that this is any real truth in any of this. You know, none of the enlightened ones, which is the important thing, have ever said that that was the way. None of them said by following cultural practices, reciting text, doing something in the world physically, or anything outside of meditation within, or entering within. None of them have ever said that this is the way to the truth. So, if you want to know the truth, why not ask somebody who's done it? And how did they do it? And if they tell you to go inside yourself and that all the truth lies within you, then why are you bothering with all these external things? How you dress, how you look, you know, where you go, how many temples you visit, how much fasting you do, how many pilgrimages, how much chanting or prayer you do. If the people who actually got to be knowers of the truth say this never worked for them, but withdrawing the attention within and sincerely asking the inner divine power to help them, and that pulled them within, and they say that works, then you should listen to them. Yeah. So that's the basis of having enlightened ones in the world, holy masters and so on. We give them various titles in recognition that these people have risen above the ignorance of human beings.
Thank you. Right, I've got a question around spirituality itself, and it's a bit of a sentence. Basically, they want you to help them understand this, which is what I'm about to say.
Okay.
According to spirituality, everyone is equally accepted as God's child, and there is no discrimination regarding religion, caste, colour, race, gender, public status, and so on. It's a path all about our love and devotion to our true Lord via perfect living Master, who comes in the physical world to guide us and make us aware of our true home, and then never leaves our hand at any cost. So the question could be, what is the best way to describe this path to others?
Well, you know, again, it's very difficult for people who are wanting different things from life. Because if somebody's on the merry-go-round train and they're enjoying the merry-go-round, yeah, then if you say to them, what are you doing? You're going nowhere. There's no destination. I am on a different train that may be not initially so fun because it doesn't go around in circles until you get dizzy, but it's heading somewhere. And really, any explanation of what spirituality is compared to philosophy, religion, or science is that there is a destination for the deeper part of you, your very life consciousness itself. That consciousness that has been given to you wasn't given to you just to play around in the creation, but it comes from somewhere, and you should make an inquiry as to where it came from, because it may be the case that where you came from is far more interesting or spectacular or rewarding or pleasurable or joyful than what you're experiencing now. You might be missing out on something really great. So spirituality teaches that there is a deeper part to you that you need to get in tune with. And that deeper part of you lies within you, not external to you, because it's part of you. You carry it wherever you go. You know, this temple of the body is your own temple. Why do you need to go into a physical building made by sweat and blood of laborers, often protestingly? What are you getting from such a place? You carry a temple within you. Surely, if there was any divinity in this creation, why would he give you something external to you that you need to depend on? Why not have everything needed to find the truth within you? And that's exactly the case. You imagine some poor fellow living in the desert, in Sahara Desert. Is he not able to find the truth just as well as somebody living in a palace with 100 temples all around them? No, there's no discrimination like this. As they say, the spirituality, the Lord, true Lord, does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what race you are, what color you are, what sex you are, how old you are. You carry that temple within you, and that temple carries the truth, the real truth. So if you want to understand the real truth, spirituality says, go within the temple of yourself. Yeah, like in Christianity, say, "Ye are the temple of the living God." Yeah, and in the Sikh scriptures, it says, "Harimanda e sharir hai." Same thing. Your body is the temple. So these religions are all telling you that the real temple is within you, not outside. So wherever you decorate an outside temple with, how many times you visit, how many times you bow in a temple, you're bowing in a wrong place.
But you can see why people do attend these places, because let's just say, want for a better word, the elders of the tribe are going there, or the people that they look up to.
It's cultural.
Yeah, it's
You build a culture and a society and you follow it. These are not true seekers. And true seekers will read the scripture that they're supposed to be following and say, hold on a minute, it's telling us that the real truth lies within us. What are we doing outside here? So truth seekers, this is the definition between religion and spirituality. A truth seeker looks at the scripture they're following, looks at the text, the clues in there, there's a hidden message, says, hold on a minute, it's telling me this. The actual book that I'm bowing down to is telling me something that is different to what these people are doing. Now, if I believe that that book is true, maybe I should read it and follow it, rather than looking at these people who are obviously maybe have not read their book, or if they have, they just blindly don't know what they're reading. Yeah, so religion is cultural, make no mistake about it. No Lord has come here to start a religion. In fact, none of the religions were started by the founders. The religions came after they left. So, for example, Guru Nanak didn't start Sikhism. He started a movement of truth seekers called Sikhi, meaning to learn the truth. He didn't say, build these temples in my name, wear these clothes this way, carry this sword or this. He never said any of that. He simply said, I'm here to tell you the truth. Go within you and seek the truth. The Guru, which he represented, is the Shabad. He even said, don't follow me. He said, I have the Shabad within me. Guru is Shabad, Shabad is Guru, he says. Meaning the holy divine power, that is the truth, the ultimate truth, lies within you. I have become a realized one. I have realized this truth. Now I'm sharing that truth with you. So Guru Nanak came from that perspective, let's say. Now during the time of Jesus, Jesus never spoke about the Bible. In none of his texts he mentions the word Bible, or mentions a church, to go to visit a church, or any of the ceremonies involved in Christianity. He never mentioned any of these things. He simply said that you need to follow the way. I have come here the way. I have come to show you the way, right, to truth. And the truth shall set you free, he said. He didn't say reading books, chanting, prayer, fasting, pilgrimages set you free. He said, seek the truth and the truth shall set you free, period. That's it, right? So if we read the content of these books that we're supposed to be following, then that tells you everything to go within you. And because Jesus also said, ye are the temple of the living God, which means it's within you. The God is within you. So what's the problem for Christians, Sikhs or Hindus? Why are they looking outside everywhere? Because these are not truth seekers. So the difference between a truth seeker who wants to know the truth is that they actually follow the means to obtain that truth. Whereas somebody who's interested in belonging to a culture will say, oh, what is everybody doing? I'll just do the same thing as them. And then everybody gives them the clap. Say, well done, you performed well. But the Lord, they don't get anywhere. The Lord does not bestow grace on them. Because they've done nothing, actually, to find the truth. Which is what spirituality is all about. So there's a big difference between cultural followings, belonging somewhere, and seeking the truth. So that's the way you can put it across if somebody really wants to know.
Thank you. I'm actually going to move on to religion specifically, and actually this next question ties in with what you were just saying, and it's another one where they want you to help them understand this. In religion, you have to follow rituals and do mindfulness chants, prayer or meditation, which will never take us to our true home. And moreover, religious people do not believe in a perfect living master. They think holy scriptures or idols are enough to worship to attain salvation. And they said, is this correct?
Well, we just spent a long time about mentioning this. And the proof is, have you found anyone? Find anyone in this world who is truly enlightened through prayer, chanting, pilgrimages, fasting, attending holy places, yeah, or doing all external rituals and ceremonies. If you can find even one person who's become truly enlightened by this means, then I'll say differently. But I have not personally, and neither has there been any historic record of this. All the people who became enlightened went within themselves and discovered the truth within them. And they were suitably initiated, baptized, or spiritually awakened by somebody who was a knower of the truth. So it seems to be that you need a knower of the truth to help awaken that truth within you. And that's the truth. And it's all about being within. The only external thing is this individual. You can call them a holy master, a perfect saint, whatever they are. But they are individuals who are realized souls. In other words, they know the truth. And because they know it, they are also given the authority to open it within you. By coming to contact with them is the qualifying criteria. So you have to be born human at the same time as them to come into contact with them. So there's a rule. We live in a world of rules called karmic creation. Karmic creation has many rules that governs how the society is run. Okay, we have the laws of physics, for example. It determines how matter behaves. Even matter can't just do its own thing. It behaves according to rules. So in karmic creation, a rule has been laid down that anyone who wants to know the real truth for themselves and get out, they have to find somebody who knows that truth. And that person who they find has to agree to accept them as a disciple and then awaken that truth within them. Just like we accept that only a lit candle can light all the other candles in the room. If there's a whole room full of unlit candles, can there be any light? Can any of those candles become lit? No. You just need one small candle to light the entire room. But you need a lit candle. So if you are among the blind who are like you and you're searching everywhere, right, externally, then how are you going to become enlightened? So the rule we accept is that. Yes.
So are you saying that if somebody was to follow an external religion with passion, follow it with conviction, believing it to be the truth, are you saying that does not lead them to the actual truth?
No, not to the actual truth, but it leads them to what they would call some place of rest. Let's say they're really good followers. They go to a heaven. Yeah? This heaven is a part of the karmic realm, a good place to rest. So they go and rest for a while, then they're thrown back in.
Yeah, but does not Soul see the fact that this individual is putting their passion into this faith?
This is passions of the mind. That's like saying, if I indulge in food and I love cooking and eating until my tummy bursts, would this not then lead me, this passion lead me to some higher state of happiness?
Yeah, but if you look at, if you initiates have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you go back to previous lifetimes, they've all followed religions.
Yeah. There's no harm. The question you said was, does it take you to the truth? The answer is no. Is it bad to go through a lesser route to get to a higher route? No. Because let's say you have a ladder, right? And you want to get to the top of the roof. Now, how can you get to the top rung of the ladder, which is closer to the roof, without crossing the lower ones? You have to tread the lower ones.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, if somebody...
It's not that the lower ones take you to the top, but by stepping on the lower one, you build to the next one and next one. If you have a journey in mind, a destination in mind, and you don't just keep stepping up and down the top, the first few rungs of the ladder, up and down forever. If you have a destination that the top rung is your destination, then that's different. But for most people following religions, they see their first 2 or 3 rungs of the ladder as the end game. That's it. That's all they need to do.
Why isn't that, even though it's in an external religion, why isn't that classed as seeking?
It's still part of seeking. Everything is seeking.
So ultimately, that would...
But the difference is whether it takes you there or not. No. When a person reaches a point of seeking, that they're no longer satisfied with the rituals they're following, because they still haven't become a better person within, or many other things have not changed in their life, then they start thinking there must be something more. And it's the next step that counts, not what they're doing. If they stay stuck in the system, like a mouse on the wheel, just going round and round, where will it take them?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is ultimately is the creator sees that passion in them and raises them to the next level.
It's part of the timeline of their karmic events. It's not a question like that. The creator doesn't intervene. Once the creation has been created, it's running along a timeline of events. Everything has been set. Therefore, the timing of their progress is predetermined, it's set. It's not that they do something different to what's written in their script, and the creator suddenly wakes up and says, oh, that one is behaving well, let's elevate them. It doesn't work like that. That's very human thinking. That there's some sort of a separate type of sorry, just take some water. That there is some sort of separate system in place other than the creator itself, because the creator is perfect. He's created the perfect system. Therefore, there's no question of the creator making a mistake and suddenly deciding, oh no, I think this individual now is following the religion, let's elevate him. It is a natural consequence of the behavior. It doesn't require the intervention of the creator at all. It's built in. So if somebody starts following the religion with great passion, and then they start questioning the truth, it's the truth seeking that matters, not how well they follow their religion, then suddenly that means that in their timeless events, their karma with that religion has ended, and they're going to jump to the next phase of spiritual inquiry. But as long as they are focused within that religion and they're enjoying themselves, they're not seeking the truth, they're just enjoying what they're doing, then they're going to enjoy the benefits of what they're doing. But that's not going to take them to that truth. That's the difference.
But there's still a positive in following.
Everything is positive.
Rather than
there's no negative here. Humans have labeled this thing as negative. In fact, even a non-believer is living their life. What about them? Forget somebody following a religion. A non-believer, because of the circumstance of their birth, is not born to a religion or a noble religion or anything. Now they're just following everyday life, struggling to make ends meet. What about them? Do you say they're going to be punished for that? No. Anybody who's in the human form, in whichever road they take, eventually will get home. Now, the difference is, at what stage are they in this human evolution, right? Are they the non-believers who live like human animals, who basically live to enjoy this life gratuitously without any concern of welfare for others, compared to somebody who tries to become a noble human being in their religion? We would say there's a different rung on the ladder, that they're at different stages of life. But from the Lord's point of view, there's absolutely no difference. We have to move away from the mind's thinking. The mind judges. The Lord doesn't judge.
Okay, so say if you had two persons, one say like Richard Dawkins, who passionately believes that there's no creator, everything came from nothing, and then you have someone who follows an external religion, passionately believing it to be the truth, looking for the truth in that religion. Would that not one take you closer to the truth and the other take you away?
Yes, but the actual practice itself is not truth realized, but the steps you are taking. It doesn't matter whether you follow religion or not. I have to explain this to you. If you decide that you want to rise above the limitations of physical existence, let's say no religion existed even, because then there are some people who are not even born in a religious way. They have no religion that they can particularly follow because nobody in their family followed it. But they may still be a truth seeker. And let's say they go into science, like Richard Dawkins. What's the difference between him and somebody following religion? He's passionate about what he believes. And if you ask him in his heart, he says, I'm seeking the truth. But my means of seeking the truth is through science. Now, would you say he's less of a truth seeker than somebody who's following their religion blindly? One could argue that Richard Dawkins is more spiritually orientated, more religious, because he's actually seeking the truth outside. He's not just following something blindly. So there's a big difference. So when it's a human thing to compare, I am better than this one because I'm following this. No. From the Lord's point of view, there's no judgment. He doesn't look at it that way because everybody's playing their part. So this is the exact problem with religion and philosophy today, that it creates judgments. It says, I'm better than you because I'm doing this. No, that's not how the Lord sees it. In fact. So that's why it's important not to get into this trap, saying, oh, as long as he's following his religion, he's doing better than Richard Dawkins. Is he? Let's find out by asking them a serious question. Who wants to know the truth more?
I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm saying which one out of the two is leading you closer to a master.
Both.
So Richard Dawkins has got an opportunity.
He could tomorrow suddenly wake up as a truth seeker, read something, resonate in him, and decide, let me find this out. How do you know?
But his subject matter is leading him up. Is it not leading him away from the truth?
No, he's a truth seeker. He's just using science as a means. Science is a religion, a belief system. What's the difference between science and religion? You make the difference. Because culturally, it's been brainwashed in your mind that science is bad, religion is good. Yeah? And therefore, anybody who pursues the science role can't be heading towards the truth. I would beg to differ that. My understanding, direct understanding, is that they are both truth seekers. But one is using the physical matter to understand the matter of creation and everything, and the other one is using abstract thinking, right? Imagination. Which one is truth seeking? Yes.
Because what I wrote down is a little bit related to, you can remove that from, if you want to, from the recording.
No, nothing's removed from the recording.
If it's not relevant. Brother here is I very much agree with him. And I do want to state that Richard Dawkins, or whatever his name is, if he's following a path of science and there's a person who's following a religion, so I was born in Sikh religion, so if I'm following Guru Granth Sahib Ji's writing, or if somebody's Hindu and following Gita and it's Christian following Bible, there's a huge difference. You said there is no difference between this is
not from the Lord's point of view, from a human, because you have to understand intention. Let's say you are following the Guru Granth Sahib, which is very good. Yes.
I think the question will make sense. It wouldn't make sense otherwise.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is the difference would be that one is seeking not the Lord. He's truth. What he's seeking for is ultimately different. Then the person who is following the religion is seeking the Lord, the blessings of the Lord, the grace of the Lord. Now, earlier on you said that Babaji said that burn all the books. Then why did all the Gurus came into this world and actually spent their entire lives making and writing the books, and then actually making it? The fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, actually said that Guru Granth Sahib Ji is now fully contemplated, and he actually, that was a book. It's actually in the end, it's a book. Now people do, I think the topic is not against religion. I think it's against rituals. Rituals is what divides people. Like Sikhism has different upbringings, different types of, so you have to keep carry a kirpan and gala and wear a turban, whereas Hindu can cut the hair. So they have different rituals. So they get married around fire, Sikhs get married around Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and one will hate the other one because they're just completely different people. So these are rituals. None of this is actually written in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Neither is written in Gita that you have to marry around a fire, or in Christian that you have to go to a church to get married. None of this actually is mentioned in any of the books. So burning those books will make no sense if the rituals are still there. Rituals are not mentioned in books, in the books that are written by the Gurus. The books are, yes, you can take different meanings out of writings, but you can take different meanings out of speech as well. So you're speaking to me, I can still take different meaning out of it. And perhaps the half an hour in the beginning you were actually reading. We could have read that at home as well. It would be the same exact thing. So I could have still taken something different out of your speech when you're speaking to me or writing. No difference in my opinion. So when the book is written, it depends what kind of seeking you have and how truthful you are to yourself. If you are reading it to prove somebody wrong, you will get that from that book. You can prove somebody wrong. And if you are reading it to seek the Lord, you can still get that from Guru Granth Sahib Ji or Gita or Bible. Yes, there is definitely a need of a perfect living master in the life, because even while the Gurus were there, they wrote down the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, but they were still there as a living master. However, I don't think burning the book will be a solution. I think burning rituals, burning differences between the religions is the solution, because none of these rituals have been mentioned at all in the holy books. and the holy books are the ultimate. For example, Guru Granth Sahib Ji was never meant to be as per your own advice, which I really took in my life, and it has changed my life. That you're not supposed to be reciting it. Guru Granth Sahib Ji was written for singing, as a kirtan. So I sing my kirtan. That's the only time I spend with Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So I sing it as the praises of the Lord, praises of the Master, and it does make a huge difference. But it depends where you are at. So brother here mentioned that if somebody is following a religion, he's also a seeker. I think he's right, because they are seeker, and I think you've said the same thing. But that there's a huge difference between what Richard Dawkins is doing and somebody's following a religion that actually leads towards God. Because, like for example, the very big scientist who's recently died, he was a wheelchair, I can't remember his name.
Stephen Hawking. He took a mick out of God's existence in his tweets and many speeches has given, and he took quite a mick out of religions, which I completely agreed with. Not that he took the mick out of Lord, but the religions he took a mick out of, I agreed with it, because it was just correct. So he was not going towards the Lord. He was not leading people to. So he had a big influence to the world, and he was not leading people to Lord's existence or thinking about Lord, going within and meditating. His seeking was a little bit different. But the person who is actually following a religion and seeking the religion as towards his spirituality, looking for the Lord, not trying to prove other people wrong. So for example, Muslim thinks Islamic, they think Islam says if somebody is not Muslim, they are kafir. Whereas if they had met a true living master who is actually spiritually practicing Islam, they would say, no, that's completely wrong. Everybody is equal. Allah made everybody equal. But they also got that same information from Quran. They didn't just, Brother, may I just, because we have a long session ahead of you, you've made your point, and I'm going to answer those points.
That explains what
I'll answer your point very clearly.
Yeah.
What you are missing, because it's a mind game, for most people they're in mind mode. So they're thinking things from an emotional point of view. It must be this and it must be that. Imagine what you mentioned is, and you clarified, in fact you answered your own question, was that within all of these things, the person is seeking the truth, not merely following a ritual, not merely becoming a club member, but they're seeking the truth. Now that is the element behind everything. A truth seeker, no matter what they are practicing, whether that is leading them to the truth or not, is irrelevant. If they're a truth seeker and they're misguided, so what of it? It means that eventually they'll get to the point. So what? Which, like you could argue that each religion is misguided because it takes them towards Kal. The destination is a heaven or a hell, which is within the karmic realm. What good is that to them?
Well,
but they are no. But the person is that these religions speak of these things. So if you only follow the scripture as it's been dictated and interpreted by humans, in whatever book it may be, because it's limited. Books are limited. The entire knowledge of even the physical world, I think one scientist said, would take so many thousands of books that would circle the earth 5,000 times. So imagine you're trying to contain in one book the absolute truth. There's no book on this earth, which is what Babaji is referring to, that is complete in its truth. It gives you an idea of the truth, and then it says go and find out for yourself. They say a picture paints 1,000 words. Let me finish the explain. A picture paints 1,000 words. The books are there to create interest within you. Then that interest makes you lead to a knower of the truth. A knower of the truth awakens that within you, and you no longer need a book. The books are misleading in that they're limited. Because if you take a book literally and say this is the word of God and this is it, and nothing outside of that exists, then you're very limited, because it cannot be the complete word of the Lord, because there's so much to creation, much more than the book can record. So Babaji is not saying that we should not have these books. They're there to create an interest. What he's saying about burning the books is a statement. You're taking him literally. He's making the statement to say that we should not rely upon them as our only source of information. They're just there to whet the appetite. He said then we should practice the meditation, go within and see it all for ourselves, rather just keep on reading the books and quoting from them. Because yes, it's nice to quote this saying to that saying, but you can quote until you're dead and you're not going to get anywhere. Similarly, you can read the books until you're dead, nothing. But you need to be spiritually awakened. Now, these books contain within them some information that explains about, let's say, this awakening of the truth within you. But that happens to a person, certain individuals. The vast majority of people who are following religion are not interested in awakening the truth. Let's face it. You can go and interview anybody coming out of a Gurdwara, church or a temple. They just want to have a better life.
That's because of the rituals.
They're not interested. Forget rituals for the moment. Even if there's no ritual, they're not interested in the truth. Now, what is common between a scientist or a religious follower is the fact if they're really seeking the truth. Now, if they're deep inside seeking the truth, they could be anywhere. They could be in any country, in any culture. If they really want to know the truth within, will the Lord deny them? No. The truth seeker may come from any background. So there's a difference in understanding from the mind's point of view, the human conditioned mind, and the Lord's point of view. The Lord has no conditioning. The Lord is equal, treats everybody equally. He's created this concept of truth seeking. Now imagine the religions didn't exist. Imagine there was no religion. And in some parts of the creations there are no religions. Yeah, there's just truth. Seek the truth. That would be far easier. The question would be, a better question, why are there so many versions of the truth? Why has there been one religion and they're all knowing full well that they're going to fight against each other? Because the human mind is such that it wants to belong to a club. It doesn't want to know the truth. There would be no wars, no religious wars or conflicts if everybody stuck to the truth. Yeah, if everybody was a seeker of the truth, there would be. It unites people. The truth is one thing. That's one. It unites people, right? Now, one thing good about science is that they seek the truth of matter. So whenever you've got a scientist from anywhere in the world, they all agree in their objective of seeking the truth of that matter, right? That's something good about science. Religions have a different point of view because they'll say, well, my version of the truth is different from yours because the book says this and your book doesn't say that. Now, when you start looking at books and literature and relying on that's the only source of information, you're going to come to a problem. Now, even in Guru Granth Sahib, they say, don't recite. Guru Nanak was very plain about reciting the books. You know, and the reason why Guru Arjan Dev commissioned a compilation of the Guru Granth Sahib is not for the reasons you're thinking. It's because there were many different schools of thinking at that time. Bhagats and the Gurus and so on. And they all were seeking that, they're all explaining this truth. And in India, at that time, there's a lot of discrimination going on. So Guru Arjan Dev very rightly said, we need to unite all these faiths called Bhakti, the movement of Bhakti. Yes, Sant Mat Bhakti. He wanted to unite them to show that they're all equal in status. Because religion divides, spirituality or truth seeking unites. So he tried to do this by creating the Guru Granth Sahib, or the Adi Granth it was called then, by commissioning the compilation of all the teachers from people such as Baba Farid, Namdev, you know, and you know, even Guru Nanak's the Guru's teachers and many others. Bhagats and Kabir Sahib was the largest entry in the Guru Granth Sahib. Why did he do all that? He could have just written down Guru Nanak's compilation and say, well, you know, Guru Nanak and Angad Dev, Ramdas, Amar Das, and he could have just put them all in there. Why did he include the 42 others? Unless they're all harping on the truth. So he made the point of trying to show to everybody that the truth is what matters, not what caste they belong to, what culture they come from, that they're united in this truth seeking. And that was the point of this compilation of the book. Now, in the Bible and in Quran, there were different reasons for putting the books together, because none of the prophets or the holy masters ever wrote anything. Even Guru Nanak didn't write. He used to sing. He never wrote anything in his time. Nothing. There's no evidence to say there's nothing written from him that exists, right? Such a great man would have so many recordings. No. Like you say, he sang songs so that people could remember because people were illiterate. What would be the point of Guru Nanak writing all this down when people couldn't read or write? So they created something called rags. He sang the Bani. Yeah, so he sang this truth, and people can remember songs much better than they can remember reading a textbook. So his method wasn't against books. He said, no, I'm going to sing you these rags that you will remember, this poetry, and then think about them. He didn't just say sing them. He said, think about what it's saying. So this was the whole point. He wasn't in favor of the books. And the gurus never say that the books are the way to freedom. The books is like a recipe that tells you how to cook a meal, but ultimately making the meal and eating the food is going to stop you from starving.
Well, Guru Granth Sahib Ji does say exactly what you are saying, that you have to find saints, the true saints,
Yes.
and take the blessings of the saints.
Yeah.
And,
And that's it. One line you need.
And it does say not to recite. Reciting doesn't take anywhere.
Yeah.
And it only talks about Naam, which
Yes.
is the Anhatun within.
Yes.
So, whatever Guru Granth Sahib Ji is saying, or Gita is saying, exactly what the saints are saying, so that could be the first step. So, the books are not the...
They're not the end game.
They're not
Yeah.
the religion.
Yeah.
The religion is what people make out of it.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So
The books
isn't
are instructional.
Isn't that what a ritual is?
Reading a
Because
book is a
Radha
ritual.
Swami itself-
Reading a book is a ritual.
If
Meditation even is a ritual.
well,
Everything is a ritual from the mind's point of view.
But isn't Radhaswami itself isn't also a religion, because they have their own divisions?
It's
as
not
well?
a religion, it's spirituality. Remember, we spent a long time defining the difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality tells you to go within yourself. So you could say that Sikhism in the day when it was conceived, firstly, was spirituality. It was Sikhi. It was about spirituality. It wasn't a religion. Later on, when the masters leave, people turn into religion by adding all kinds of rituals and rules and ceremonies,
Yes, yes.
right?
Yes.
But the point is, the difference between religion and spirituality is that religion tells you to perform certain rituals and ceremonies and belong to the group. You must be compliant with the society they've created. The spirituality says to hell with all that. You could just simply sit at home, wear what you like, do what you like, sit at home, meditate on the highest truth. Now, let's say you're a scientist and you decide you want to discover the highest truth as well. The point is that whichever route you take from the Lord's point of view is the same. If you ask any enlightened one, any holy master, and somebody's reaching the top of their game in a particular religion or philosophy or, I don't know, whatever it may be, but in their heart, they're a true seeker. It's just that they haven't come across that truth yet. So destiny, their script, has not allowed them to. Everything is based on intention, not what you do. In fact, no effort you make physically counts for anything. The whole idea of the experiences of life, what is life about? The experiences you have in life are there to do something very important in a human being, to generate inquiry within the mind of seeking the truth of it all. The experiences themselves are irrelevant. You can follow any religion, you can follow any science, you can do anything you like. But if that truth seeking is awakened within you, no matter what you're doing, you could be robbing a bank. If that truth is awakened within you, then you're on your road to the home. That is how the Lord sees it. We human beings say, this is the right way, this is the wrong way.
But that's human. That's
a human. But that's different from the Lord. What we're talking about here is the highest truth. The trouble with humans are that they like to use labels to judge others, saying, if this one is doing this, this is better than that one. I have to wholeheartedly disagree, because the Lord has created his entire creation with equality in mind. We make it unequal. We put our own spin on it through the limitation of our mind. If you speak to any knower of the truth and says, I know the entire knowledge of creation, can you find anything in it that is in competition with anything else, that is right and wrong? He goes, no, there's no right and wrong. There just is. It's the full expression of glory of divinity. Now, if you take an aspect of that, a slice of the pie of the creation, and say, right, these people we call humans, let them decide labels upon what they see around them, then those labels are limited by their ability to know the truth. So, for example, you'll never hear an enlightened one criticize and say, this one is better than that one. They do not judge. They say everything is perfect. Even Guru Gobind himself said, when the 10th Guru, when he was questioned about his karma lot, how heavy his karma was. He said, they said, you've lost your mother in such a cruel way. You've lost these children in such a cruel way. What do you say of this Lord that you praise?
So if somebody
and his answer says, sweet is thy will, O Lord. Ever sweet is thy will, was his reply to them. And they were astonished because they were using human judgment and he was in touch with the divine. There's difference.
So if somebody seeks to learn a bicycle and he spends his entire life to learn bicycle, is that spirituality?
Everything is spiritual. Forget what he's doing. Remember, the doing doesn't matter, the intention. Let's say that person is a truth seeker in their heart, but they don't have any truth around them, but they're questioning in their mind. That's the limited, but they happen to be riding a bicycle, they want to become good at it, or they want to become good in their photography. What of it? This is karmic. Karma has got nothing to do with spirituality. The karma is the law of creation that determines action and reaction. You have to separate the two. Okay. The intention or the attitude of one within them to seek the truth is what matters. It doesn't matter what job they're doing, what hobby they have. How do you know that that person riding that bike does not seek the truth?
No, I'm just saying, what if they, like for example, that Mr. Dawkins, Dr. whoever, Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, Richard Dawkins, yeah.
I'm bringing back to that topic, is that what if that person is just seeking how to ride a bicycle and that's his entire seeking? And you were saying it's equal to somebody... No.
I'm saying a truth seeker can come in many forms. It's not limited to what they're doing. It doesn't matter that he wants to be a perfect bike rider. That's just a hobby. That's got nothing to do with seeking the truth. The seeking the truth is something that's generated from the soul within. It has nothing to do with the clever mind, the way the mind plays. The mind plays enjoyment in this creation. That is a whole different thing, entertaining the mind in some way, to actually becoming a truth seeker. No one can become a truth seeker unless their timeline event says so. When it comes to time in their life that truth seeking is awakened within them, then such a one has reached a point in their life where that truth will be revealed. Take yourself out of the equation. As long as you say, I am doing this, I am the doer, you will never find the truth. Because in the highest truth, there's no I, there's only thou, thee. There's only oneness. If you separate yourself into the many and you stay in the many, you're going to not get the truth. So distinguishing...
Put my question through.
But distinguishing, I think because I understand your background, that you come from a certain mindset thinking. When that truth comes to you and you see the truth in plain sight, no matter what hobby you may be having.
I read Guru Granth Sahib and it says exactly the things you're telling me.
Then just follow it and find out for yourself.
And when I listen to Ishwarji as well, I see the things he's telling me is exactly the same as what Guru Granth Sahib is telling me. But now when you sit here and tell me that Guru Granth Sahib or the books are not the same as seeking the truth.
No,
whereas
the actual truth within you can never, the actual experience, first-hand experience, can never be the same as reading a third-party account. Let's say a great guru wrote that this is the...
Or all these videos I'm watching.
Yes, all of them are designed to make you inquire within. No spiritual master, enlightened one, will ever say to you, listen to this satsang, listen to these words, read these books, and that's the end. They said these are designed to make you question what you're doing so that you put more emphasis on truth seeking. It's designed to build that truth seeking within you, that fascination within you, so that you seek the truth. And then all this information falls away.
So they're the correct beginning.
Sorry?
So they're the correct beginning for spirituality.
They're a beginning. They're a beginning. But when you come in a life form, you're starting your journey even as a mouse. Right? Everybody's progressing in the evolutionary scale. Okay. The Lord is behind everything, not you. Remove you from the equation. The Lord is the only doer. The Lord is the seeker and the Lord is the master looking for the disciple. Yeah? The question of this separation doesn't exist. It's just in the mind. Because we believe we're separate from another. So we say, well, we're doing this and that one is doing that. Our one we believe is better. No. Because everything is by the Lord's grace. No one has any choice in what they're doing. The script has been written.
Everything is correct.
Huh? Everything is correct. There's nothing. What you should concentrate on instead is, where are you at in this spiritual seeking? Forget looking around. Like, Hazur Maharaj used to say, wear blinkers. Why are you looking around at everybody else, what they're doing? Look at yourself. Put that much energy into looking what you're doing to find the truth. and how it's getting you closer to that truth. Yes, that's a useful time.
So if everything is correct, why did you say that a train is going round and round and the other train is leading somewhere?
Because I'm explaining to you the difference between following a karmic revolution of things around the karmic circles, which the holy books try to explain. I'm giving another way, in a way we can understand, and something taking you straight to the destination. There is a difference.
Thank you.
Now, sorry.
I just wanted that to be clarified. Maybe
Yes.
planned it this way. So
Maybe I'm using language to explain something to you. Language is limited. I'm saying to you, I'm creating an interest in you to find the truth for yourself. Yes.
I don't think we're judging, say, like Richard Dawkins and atheism, or someone believing in materialism and someone believing in a religion. What we're saying is, what is the likelihood of either of the two leading you to?
Why look outside? Look at yourself first. Actually bother about yourself. Worry what you're doing, not worrying about others. When you become perfect and you have perfect knowledge, then you can say, oh, now I'm going to save all these others. Or that one might be taking slightly further away from the truth. That one's taking closer. You could say all these things. Why not sort yourself out first? Because what you do not know is that this creation is already planned. The entire creation is not in anyone's hand. The moment you look and point a finger at another, you're judging. It's automatic. Judging is in the separation. There's no question about it. When you see everything as the Lord's play, and you see the Lord is in everyone, what is there to look at? What is there to difference? For me, I don't see differences. I see the Lord everywhere. I don't see the Lord nowhere. I see him everywhere. So if you point to me and say, is the Lord in this one? I said, sure, even in the villain. If you can find me any place on this earth, or any one where the Lord is not there, then I'll say to you, yeah, there's some sort of something going on here. But it's not the case. So from a spiritual point of view, the Lord is in everyone, and everyone is playing their karmic role. Now, what we should do, the idea of having intelligence, is that we need to question where we are at for our own satisfaction. So, let's say the need comes in you, that you need to find the truth. But your friend, who's a good friend of yours, he doesn't have that same feeling. You don't judge him. You simply say, well, I have this need, you have that need. Like he wants to be a photographer, he wants to be a master photographer. Good for him. And you have a need to find the truth. What of it? It simply means that your time has come and not his yet. It's not forever. So it's a very dangerous game when we start looking at what others are doing and instead of looking at what we're doing. Because actually, you only understand your own self. You can only know yourself until you become a knower. Because in fact, the Lord is in everyone, in everything, and everything is ticking up along just nicely. Like Ishwarji said, when you get to a certain point and you look at the creation and you want to change things, you think, actually, there's nothing to change. It's perfectly in order. To make such a statement, you have to be a knower of the truth. You have to look at it from the Lord's point of view, who's created the entire drama and play. I've often spoken about films and movies because they're excellent examples of drama. Now, when a director looks at the cast and he's saying this one is playing the villain, this one is playing the goodie, that one is playing the wife, this one is playing the husband, this one is playing the scenery, does he criticize any of them? He says, no. From my point of view as a director, the movie is perfect. Every part has been played well. He doesn't say that the villain should be hanged because he's playing the villain and that the hero should be given lots of drinks and celebration. No, he says to everybody when the filming is done, you've all done very well. And that's exactly how the Lord looks at the creation. He sees everybody playing their part. Whether you consider from a human point of view, that part be lower or higher, right? From the Lord's point of view, none of it is all Maya, it's all illusion. Everything you're seeing here doesn't count for one jot. But while you are here, what can you do for yourself? How can you become a realized one? But that only happens when that feeling comes in your heart. When it becomes a need, then what happens? Your life takes a turn suddenly at that point, right? And then it's a personal thing between you and the Lord. It doesn't involve anybody. Now you have to find a means to get to that truth, which means a candle can only be lit by a lit candle. You have to find somebody who's a knower of the truth, seek their company, and they have the authority to awaken that within you. That is the law in this realm. Yeah, you can question it all you like, but that is the method by which the Lord has created this particular version of creation, right? So that there's a means, but there's a reason behind it. The reason is In order for you to give up the imposter mind, your ego, you have to surrender it to another being. Only by you having somebody else to bow to their feet, let's say, that you can surrender your ego to them and say, I am nothing, you are the truth, you are everything. What does this do? This is why Guru Gobind Singh said, are you prepared to cut off your head and hand it to the Guru's feet? What does he say? He said, give yourself up to the Guru, meaning only the Guru exists, you don't exist, right? You become one again, you become whole again, your origin, your source. So that is why we need somebody separate from us in this creation of duality. Everything here has been created in duality. That's what makes the adventure. If there was no good and bad, no beautiful and ugly, no day and night, and no even life and death, what would you do here? There's no interaction. So by creating duality, you're having an adventure here. Now in that adventure, using the duality model, we have the disciple and we have the Guru, right? This is not the only version of events that exists in creation. But for this duality creation, we have to have separation. So now, what's the point of then having a Guru even? Yeah, you could just read a book and follow it. No. Two things happen. One, in this particular creation, the Guru represents the means by which you can surrender yourself to something outside of yourself. In other words, the higher truth. Because that one has become realized. You're not surrendering yourself to the physical being of the Guru. You're surrendering themselves to the Shabad or the spirit, the realization, the truth. That one holds the truth in them. I don't care whether they're black, white, green, yellow, tall, short, fat, thin, right? That one holds the truth. And if that one holds the truth and they can light the light within me, I'm going to hang around with them. Yeah? Until they awaken that same truth within me. So when you're a truth seeker, you seek the means to get to that truth. And it doesn't matter what their background, what their religion, what they are. So that is the difference. Whereas if you're going around the merry-go-round of the world, like you're just enjoying yourself, okay, your time has not come. But the Lord has decided that, not you. Even in Islam, yeah, Allah says in the Quran, it says, everything that happens, including those who follow me, is written in the book of decrees before it is going to happen. What it means is that the script is written first, and then everybody follows it, and they take the credit for it. They say, I am a good disciple, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. The moment it's I, home, yeah, you're in trouble, because you've not surrendered the ego. When you say the Lord is the doer of everything, this is just an instrument by which the Lord manifests its glory, and we call this instrument by a name, that's a very different thinking. So it's really important not to create differences. But if you have a tendency to look out and see differences, I would say bring your attention within. Look within yourself, perfect your knowledge, that you see nothing but the truth outside in different forms, and marvel at this truth. How amazing it is. Even a villain is created so good in his villainy, right? How wonderful the Lord has created that villain even, that he could do such things. So when we look outside, we look with the eye of wisdom, the eye of truth, not the eye of ignorance. Yeah. So this is the whole point of spirituality in this talk, is to create that interest within you, to find this truth within you, because once you know your truth, all other truths become aware to you. Hopefully that's finally. So let's move on to the next question now. I think we've answered that very in depth.
Actually, the last question that I did ask, it talks about perfect living masters.
Right.
I've got a question regarding perfect living masters. Why in this modern age of like increased population is there access to... Sorry, I'll start it again. Why in this modern age of increased population is the access to our true home only available through a handful of perfect living masters? Surely there are many, many souls wanting to return home. It seems outdated and inaccessible for many seekers.
Actually, the opposite is true. There's a misunderstanding in there. When there are a large number of truth seekers, I'm talking about real truth seekers, wanting to know the truth, no matter what the cost. These are people who are not bound to their culture, their religion or anything. They just want to know the truth. A master will always appear in that society. Masters only appear where there's a gathering of truth seekers. So if in a particular country there's an insufficient real truth seekers, the masters don't appear. The moment is the other way around. The masters appear in response to the yearning of the individuals to seek the truth no matter what the cost. Now, this is an important point because people have a different version of the truth. Like if they're following some writings and say a holy book, they think they're following the truth. But the books, as we explained, are limited. They cannot, by their very nature, incorporate all the entire truth. The truth is so much more vast than can be written in the scripture. But the scripture creates interest enough to seek the truth. Now, let's say everybody's following a particular religion, but they're not truth seekers. They just want to follow religion and be good at it. That's fine, right? But then the masters wouldn't come among them. But you could have a population of wandering dervishes in the desert, and they don't have any particular religion or anything, but they just want to know the truth. They're sitting there philosophizing, really questioning the truth. A master will appear among them. So this criteria for masters to appear is based upon where the truth seekers are. It's not something that's based upon, oh, well, we have to give everybody a fair crack. So we'll have a master in each nation, in each country, to force them to follow the truth. No, it's the other way around. When the seeker is ready and they have that seeking within them, naturally comes within them, the master says, okay, we can appear now in that nation because there's such a large number. Because remember, countries are having karma as well. Each country has a different karma. Some countries are more spiritual orientated than others by nature. So people born to those particular countries by destiny will be more inclined to seek the truth. And if they're not a truth seeker in their past, they'll be born to a country that doesn't follow it. Maybe very commercialism, or hunter-gatherer.
So what you're saying is, even though there may appear to be only a few perfect living masters, it's relative to what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. If everybody in the world, 8 billion people, were all truth seekers, there'll be quite a lot of masters.
Thank you. Another question relating to perfect living masters. Does the perfect living master have the authority to alter a soul's Akashic records? And if so, what gives that authority?
You see, this is a difficult one from the human perspective. Actually, from the Lord's point of view, nothing is altered. I have to tell you that. Nothing is altered. However, humans are interesting creations because part of the human faculty is the mind. And the mind likes to feel that it has some sort of say in what's going on. It likes to think that it's making decisions, that it's doing things of its own accord. In other words, it exists separately from the Lord's will. It likes to think that. So when something is not going according to the Lord's will, and we pray to the Master, please intervene and help, and then help does come, right? Something happens. We say, oh, good, the Master has responded to our need, right? And then we get the credit. So the mind gets the credit for this. Right? Now, interestingly, the holy books tell us not to ask the Lord for anything physical of the world, only for the truth. That's really interesting. Why are they saying that? I mean, after all, if you've got this magnificent Lord of all creation, why should you ask for blessings? Why should you ask for your business to be successful, daughter to get married, your health to improve? Why shouldn't you ask? The reason is because there's no point in asking, because everything is actually pre-written. So they're just trying to get away from this wasting of time and say, well, just ask for the truth. Actually, and the courage to follow the truth. That's it. So when divine intervention occurs and masters say the Akashic record can be changed, it is possible. Masters have the power to do it, but they won't do it because there's nothing wrong with creation. If they change the Akashic record of one individual, then the entire domino effect, chain of events linked to that individual has to be changed as well. Can you imagine that? If everybody's whim was to be fulfilled, somebody says, I want this, I want that, so Master says, okay, I'll change the record. You are part of an entire group of individuals that are interacting in a predetermined way to keep order. Otherwise, there'll be no order, there'll be chaos if you were to change everything, mix it all up. Yeah, there'll be no order to events. A script has to be there and it has to be followed. For example, let's say in a movie, one of the cast decide, you know what, I don't think I should go to that house there and knock that one out. I'd much rather go to a tea party over there. That's happening in another part of the script. Can I just go off and wander off the script and just do that? And the director says, yeah, sure. What's going to happen to all the events that were supposed to be occurring at that house? It can't work like that.
So, for example, if I ask for something and it happens, what you're saying is, by me asking for it and I perceive the answer to be, to my question to be answered, that was already going to happen anyway. Yeah. But to me, it looks as if, I asked and I got
This is entertainment for the mind. We're here to be entertained. We like to think that we are something, that we are independent. So, I mean, if you realize early on in life that you're not, who's going to do anything? Nobody's going to take part in the creation.
I think this is a perfect example why you said the books are limited. I don't think any book in the world could explain it the way you just did.
Yeah.
I think
well, there is probably something written about it somewhere, but not in one volume, everything.
But it's just the elaboration, the examples and everything. That's why I think living saints are very much, and Guru Granth Sahib Ji very much promotes it. He says that you must find, and he begs God to bless koi aave santo har ka jan santo.
Yes.
So he's begging for saints to come in our lives.
Yes.
Because the information in any book whatsoever is quite limited.
Yeah, of course it's limited. It's just designed to, for example, an instruction manual that helps you to construct something is not the same as somebody showing you.
Yeah.
You know, we have to use some method to create that interest in us. As human beings, we cannot all find the perfect living master straight away. It's not in our destiny. So we have to go through various stages, from non-belief to religious beliefs and so on, until we exhaust them all and realize we're not getting anywhere. Then we get really disheartened. Most people who seek the truth, they're usually fed up. They've tried everything and got nowhere. So they say, I just want to know the truth. And the moment they appeal to something within them, suddenly something happens for them. Their time has come to have this experience or that vision or something, that truth yearning is called, not through the practices of what they were doing in life, that's just karma, but what they were doing, when their heart is ready, when they were doing that seeking, that's when they actually then suddenly had an encounter. But even that is written, it's at the time of it. When you go to Parbrahm and you look at the entire record of your human existence, you figured out that the things you thought you were doing were actually already determined. But the Lord gives you credit. How great is the Lord that he gives you the credit? He says, well done, you're a good disciple. Yes.
Sorry, please could I touch on 3 subjects that you have discussed so far. I'll accept limited answers to save time. The first one is a statement, brother, that Guru Granth Sahib Ji itself says that you cannot in writing explain the Lord. Okay.
No, that's not.
So
That's
the
not
Guru
what
Granth
I
Sahib.
said. That's not what I said. I said without finding the saints.
No. I'm saying that the Guru Granth Sahib Ji says it. I'm making a statement.
It is actually written. It is actually written in the text of the Guru Granth Sahib.
In the text of the Guru Granth Sahib Ji.
Say what, sorry?
That the creation, God, His wonder, the way He works, cannot be written.
Yes. You can explain that in Punjabi to him.
Okay.
Therefore, the Guru Granth Sahib Ji is itself saying that I am limited.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I've just agreed as well.
Yeah. So that was just a statement.
Yeah, that's an agreement we got with.
But we do, because we are human, we do have humans in this world who say that their scriptures are the complete explanation, that there's nothing beyond that. And that's because we are human.
Yeah.
So let's move on from there.
Yeah.
I need to remember what those 3 things were.
That's what
yes, the last thing that the speaker was talking about, a particular Sant that I'm very fond of. I use his example because if you look at all the saints in India, you'll get many who have millions of followers who will say, okay, somebody comes and says, this is wrong in my life, my daughter needs to get married, like you said, my health is bad, and he says, okay, right, now, it doesn't look funny, people there.
I know, people like stories and fantasy. They watch movies after all, they believe them.
And this particular man who's very, very popular, revered, has on camera shown to revive a dead person. Okay? Compare that with the Sant that I like, who never does this, and whenever anything happens, somebody lame walks in and you know exactly why they're there, he says, this is how it is. I can't do anything about this. Okay, this is how it is. But again, on that subject, we've heard that when we go to somebody we are following, or a perfect or a holy master, we say, please Babaji, could you sort this out for me? And it happens. The reality is that you were meant to ask,
Yes.
and it was meant to happen,
That's right.
but we thought it happened because I asked.
Yes.
Taking that a bit further, given that we are just living in a version of the universe,
Yeah.
in this version, I'm having difficulty having my daughter married off in our Asian culture. Okay?
Yes.
And I ask that I would like, I can't bear this pain. I can't see my daughter suffering. I want my daughter married. Why can't God make that happen? And yes, everything changes, because
Yes.
you change a little thing, then the whole thing
That's
changes.
right. You've
So-
answered your own question.
No, so be it. No, I'm moving on from there. I understand
Yes.
that things are perfect.
Yes.
So much so that if you do change something, it becomes imperfect.
Change you and focus on yourself, not your daughter.
Correct.
Within you.
Yes.
Focus on you discovering the truth of it all. That's a far greater mystery than worrying about the fate of your daughter, whose fate is already determined by the Lord.
But moving on from there, what I'm saying is, why cannot I say to the Lord, make this happen and move me to a version of a universe where this actually happens?
You can say anything you like to the Lord. There's no restriction. What happens is already determined.
No, by saying
You can ask anything you like. The Lord never says don't ask me anything.
Yeah.
Ask for the world, ask for diamonds, ask for anything you like.
Again,
But
let me.
the most important thing is that it doesn't matter to the Lord what you're asking. If He has the power to grant your wish, does He already know what you need? How can you ask the Lord something? If He doesn't know what you need and you feel you have to ask Him in case He's missed something, then how can you have faith that that Lord has the power to grant you your wish if He doesn't even know? Has He not all-knowing? So the question of asking is muted. Why ask anything? Because the Lord already knows this is for the mind. The mind plays this game, right? Because it sees itself separate. So it says, look, I'm suffering, I'm a dukkhi, yeah? I want this dukkhi revealed, relieved, rather.
Yes.
Therefore, please help me.
Yeah.
Okay, ask. It's not going to change anything, but you feel better. And because you feel better having asked, then you park it to one side, and now you can forget about it, thinking the Lord's going to take care of it.
I not only
Right? So from a mental point of view, it's okay.
I not only understand that, I actually believe that, and I'm very
Yes.
happy with that. And that's why I like this particular Sant, and that's why I like what you say.
Yes.
But I'm making the hypothetical point. I don't think it's been understood. Let me try again. I'm making the hypothetical point that why does the Lord not answer my wish, my prayer, by shifting me to a version of the universe where my daughter does get married?
In exactly the same reason that you said before, that to change the course of events by moving any individual from where they're supposed to be to some place that they whimsically decide they should be is creating a problem in creation.
Okay.
Because why should He just answer yours? You know how many billions of prayers are mentioned every day?
Uh-huh.
They should all be fulfilled.
Okay.
If this is an all-loving Lord who discriminates against everybody, they should all be fulfilled.
I agree.
Then in that case, the universe would end as it is.
I agree. Let's move on to my
Yes.
final thing then.
One sec. I think what he's trying to say is, why don't Lord show him what will happen if this happens?
No, he actually wants it to happen. I think he actually wants it to happen rather than saying he'd like to see the outcome.
But let's move on. Let's move on. Final point then. My intention to know counts is what you've said.
Yes. Everything is on attitude and intention.
all
That's all that
attitude
matters.
and
Not what you're doing, not
Yeah.
where you are, who
It
you are,
matters.
nothing.
It matters. Am I right in thinking that what you've said is that it is not sufficient? There is one final step left, and that is the lit candle lighting and
Yes.
unlit candle.
You need to
Either
be enlightened by a duality means, because you live in a dual creation.
Yeah.
You cannot go against the law of the creation you live in. The law states in this particular pattern of creation, and you do exist elsewhere, but this version of you, right, has to find a perfect living master or somebody who's enlightened to pass that light on to you. That is the particular universe. Now you can protest all you like about it. It's not going to make any difference to the Lord.
Okay. So the question here I'm asking is very personal to me, very important to me.
Yes.
And you know why,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
have said it
Yes.
to you before. That must I look for a master and accept a master, or does the Lord see the yearning in me and make it happen?
That's right. The second one is the truth. When
Right.
you come before the one who is marked for you, automatically you create a link with them. It's
Thank
not
you.
in your hands. You can in your mind, without picking anybody, you can in your mind say, I just want to know the truth. Now leave it to the Lord how the truth is going to be delivered to you. Whether it's going to be through this fellow, that woman, this thing, that thing, whatever. It could be anything. But if you're a real truth seeker, you don't care in what form that truth is delivered to you, because you're unbiased. But the moment you decide it has to look like this, it has to be of this culture, it has to be like that, then you'll have a problem. You're not a truth seeker yet. When the truth seeker is genuine, he doesn't care how that truth is delivered to him. This is an important point. A real truth seeker, otherwise there's lower truth for you. So for example, there's many levels of truth. If you become a truth seeker, in quotes, but you're not quite ready to have unconditional truth. You want it conditioned. You want the truth packaged in a certain way. It has to be within the Sikh culture, let's say. So, okay, then you have to find somebody like that. Or if you think this has to be an Indian fellow because he speaks your language, okay, that. Or you think that, well, I like the truth, but I want to have a better life here, so I want a miracle man. Okay, find a miracle man. But the real truth, the absolute truth, is the one that takes you all the way. The others take you so far. There are masters from every level. There's astral level, causal level, Par Brahm, then Bhavan Gufa and Satgurus. Now, for example, the Guru Granth Sahib talks about the perfect living master, the highest level master that comes from Satgurus. And their opinion is that this is the one you should find, because they're going to take you all the way. But it doesn't mean that certain people are not going to go along a certain way. They're going to stop off here, there, because their level of comprehension, their level of understanding, their level of truth seeking only takes them so far. They're not prepared to do it no matter what the cost. Yeah, this is an important part. If you say, I want to know the truth no matter what the cost, wow, that is a brave one. That is a rare individual. And that one will meet a perfect living master and in this very lifetime go home.
My version of my understanding of Sikhi and the way I've lived Sikhi is no different to what you have been saying. Nothing you have ever said in any of the satsangs that have been here, I feel has gone against Sikhi. Can I ask you, do you see anything in Sikhi that you think is insufficient?
Insufficient?
Yes.
Only in limitation. I don't think that insufficiency is the right word. Limitation is. Because like brother here said, there's a limit to how much words you can put on the page and how much you can reveal in a book of 1,400 pages.
I'm talking
right?
about what you are telling me and what historical records say the Gurus told us. And what,
they spoke a lot more than is being recorded.
And the
Think about the lifetime of Guru Nanak.
Yeah.
Yeah, one lifetime. Yeah. Really? The number of pages attributed to his sayings is far less than actually what he said. There is so much missing. But at some point, whatever was recorded, some bits were remembered, the more memorable ones were recorded. But that's not the entire utterances of him. So Mardana or Bala, who lived with him, they had the full benefit of having his wisdom. And if they were to read it, if they were to look at Guru Nanak's contribution to Guru Granth Sahib, and they read that and say, is that it? This is such a small part of what we learned.
I'll pose the question in another way.
Yes.
The Sant month that we are discussing.
Yes.
And the meditation, which is Surat Shabad.
Yes. The Surat Shabad Yoga, which is connecting the soul to the ultimate soul. Yes.
Yeah. Lost my words. I was going to pose that question in a different way. Okay. So the Surat Shabad meditation is discussed in many places and given to us in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, in the historical records of what the Gurus said, and also in people like me who understand it to be so. Am I right in thinking that what I see there is exactly the same as what you are telling me? There is no difference.
You see, from a human perspective, we could argue that we are saying the same thing, but the sentiment behind it, the level of knowledge that backs this up, is you could compare, like a drop is a part of the ocean, yeah, but the ocean has far more force behind it than a drop, yet they're both of the same ilk. So the drop could say, I'm just like you, Father, because I have these qualities that you have, but you have the mighty force of entirety behind you. So yes, truth is there, but there's behind that, what is backing that truth? That is something you need to find out, that you are actually ocean and not a drop. When you look at it in this limited way, right, then you're limiting yourself. Spirituality says, don't limit yourself. Go and merge with that ocean of truth and become that ocean of truth. Then all your questions will be answered. It boils down to the practice. For you spending time in your life, your valuable time, which is the only thing you have to offer the Lord, is your time, is the most valuable thing, because that's the only thing you can't get back. You can get back everything else. You can marry 10 women. You can get rid of one, get another one. You can have so many children. You can replace your car, your house. You cannot get back time. So what the Lord says in this creation is the amount of time you spend in seeking the truth, in whatever means it may be. Yeah? Genuine truth seeking within the heart, right? And they've given some methods to help you with this, but they're not the only way, right? The most important thing is that you're a truth seeker, then that truth shall set you free. That is what is important. Now, the means by which you do it. So, for example, one holy book might say, right, you have to do this reading or this reciting or something, and there's a certain level of interest you can get from that, but it takes you only so far. But then there's others said, right, go within and meditate. Yeah, you make an effort to meditate. So meditation takes you to the top of the causal realm. Right? That's fine. But meditation does not take you to Satgurus. So even all the practices taught you in the holy books, none of them can take you to a true home. Categorically. They are a practice. The fact that they are done as a practice, as a doing, means that they are limited within the karmic realms. Now, so what's higher than that? So none of the practices we do in this physical world take us home. What does? There's something unique in all of us. And that is that the love of the Lord, the truth of the Lord, lies within us, deep within. When that starts stirring, something called bhakti, devotion to the truth, happens. Now, love and devotion is the only thing that takes us past the mind and maya, not spiritual practice. For example, when you reach Parbrahm, there's no meditation. There's no practice. So from Parbrahm to Satgurus, what are you doing there? How are you making progress? Because you are in love with the beloved. You have given yourself up. Like the sati, the woman who sacrifices herself in the funeral pyre. Like Kabir very beautifully put it. Be like the sati, he says. The woman who throws herself and the husband's burning body because she can't bear to be separated. She doesn't even think about what she's doing. She doesn't even think about the consequence. She just throws herself. That's what happens when you reach Parbrahm. This is a path of love and devotion. Nothing to do with rituals or ceremonies, including meditation. Even Babaji has said recently that meditation only takes you to the top of the second realm. It cannot get across you. Having the love for the Guru, throwing yourself in with the enlightened one, surrendering yourself, then he pulls you across. It's not a question of you practicing, you pushing. Your effort is pushing. If somebody pulls you, that's a lot easier than being pushed. You cannot push yourself out of the mind realm.
That's why I understood two things. Again, to repeat, one was the yearning, and the other was the light, the awakening.
Yeah.
Was the awakening, and incidentally, that's why us scientists often say, so many of us say, that science and religion will take us to the same place. because the scientist is
Yes,
also
pretty
seeking.
much they're on the same level.
Okay, well, because it's a seeking, because
Yes,
the scientist is
yes.
always seeking,
Yes.
and he thinks he's going to
Yes.
seek until
Yes.
he will explain everything.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Likewise, the yogi believes that he is going to meditate and contemplate more and more until he
Yes.
will understand everything.
Absolutely
So,
right.
so both sides believe that they
Yes.
will eventually meet.
Yes.
That we're only separated here now in appearance.
Yes.
But again, the important point you make is there is a second step. There
The
is
step,
that second
you mean
step.
beyond the step, beyond that is that
This is
yearning
practice.
within you for the truth.
That is practice.
That does not come from you. The mind doesn't want to know the truth because the mind knows that the highest truth will be in its end. It doesn't want to give its life up like a drunken fool.
Right.
So the mind will never want you to find the truth. The mind will do everything it can to twist the truth, to distort the truth.
Yeah.
Like let's say I have the perfect light, a white light, and I shine it through a filter, a green filter. Then the light that comes out of it is green. It's still light. But you say, but this is light. But the one who shines on the other end says, no, the light is pure white. He said, why you talk about green light? This is what happens when the truth is filtered through the mind. It creates all these methods of attaining truth, right? Because it feels that it has to make an effort to do something about it. That's the nature of the mind. It's a tool. It's a machine. It's designed to do things, creating actions which create karma. Fine. Beyond that, the truth that comes from the level of the soul does need no explanation. It needs no doing. It is an absolute power that is inherent within the soul. It is designed automatically to know the truth. It does need to do nothing for it, but attach itself to the ocean of truth. So this love game, which is started here in the physical form, ends in such kind, because you fall in love with the bestower of that truth. The master has accepted you. You don't care physically what he looks like. You're not interested in what he eats or where he goes or what he dresses. This man or this woman has taken you under their fold, and they have made you with them. They have said, I will make you like me. So perfect living say, I am the master and you're the disciple. He says, no, we are co-travelers on this journey. I'm a little further along, and if you want, I can take you to where I'm going. I come from this place. Now this is a personal surrender to somebody who you do not know, who's going to take you home. Because at that point you don't know what home is or where it is. You have to surrender yourself to this individual and trust them. This is why we call religions faith and trust. We talk about faith and trust a lot, because it involves this faith and trust in this individual who you have no other reason to trust from a physical point of view. But the heart says, I will give myself to you because I believe something inside me recognizes you carry the truth within you. And by staying with you, I'm following you, you'll take me to that place of truth. And that's exactly the path of spirituality. This is a path of love and devotion, not of words, not of spiritual practices, none of these things. All these lower things are there to create that interest in you to that point, to awaken that within you, that you actually are ready to surrender to the truth. Okay?
From that's your first step. You've got to that point. You use the word
And when you
point.
surrender to the truth, the game is over.
The game is over. Again, I'm seeking correction on this.
Okay.
The game is over only when you surrender and get accepted.
Yes.
By
Yes.
the
You're talking about the process of coming into the contact with a perfect living
there are two
master.
steps. There is the intention that you've talked about so much.
Yes, yes.
The yearning, the love, okay, that takes you to a point.
Yes.
It is a point. There is a second step whereby you have found the master, and you have to surrender. This is a two-way thing. Surrendering is not enough. Acceptance is the other thing. You have to surrender and you have to accept. Okay.
Yes, you can look at it like that.
Well, it's very important to me because
Then accept, it's okay.
Yeah.
What you're saying is fine.
yeah,
It's a little more than that, but
Yeah.
it's fine. You know, try to just within you ask for the truth. Don't put any label on it or any condition, how it should look, how it should be. Don't analyze.
So,
the mind analyzes. Forget the analysis. Just say, I want to be a truth seeker now. Go about and enjoy this life. And then enjoy this life as a true seeker.
Yeah.
There's no harm in enjoying. If you like to play golf or cricket, do it. Enjoy it. But keep the Lord always in mind. Keep the truth always in mind. The Lord doesn't want you to be miserable here either.
Precisely. That's. I want the Lord. I want the truth. To the point where people cry.
That's fine. This is we can talk this personally, separately, because we have a lot of other people here. And whilst you have a nice story to tell about yourself personally, let's just move on from that point. I understand fully what you're saying, and I think the audience also understand here. So if we can move on to the next question, we can always have a personal meeting about this, talk more personally about your journey. Yes, please, go on.
Okay, still keeping with religion.
Yes.
This is a long statement, and they basically want you to clear their doubts and help them understand this concept clearly. So here it is. There is one religion, I won't name it, where people still believe in the caste system and disrespect others based on their caste. In old times, people were known by their profession, such as a priest who used to work in the temples and teach others, or warriors, these were army soldiers or saviours, or a businessman or labour workers, etc. But today we can see a farmer's son becoming a scientist or businessman, a cleaner's child becoming a priest or teacher. If God never discriminated against anyone and blessed them with beautiful destinies and gave them the opportunity to grow and get recognised by their natural abilities, thus attaining their current status, then why are they not treated with respect but still labelled low by their ancestors' occupation? Because people from that specific religion believe that it is written in their holy scriptures that they should be treated accordingly. I have never heard or read anything like this in other religions. Moreover, most of the past holy masters, like Jesus Christ, who was a carpenter, Guru Ravidas, who was a cobbler, Guru Kabirji, a weaver, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, a farmer, they all led a simple life and were not from rich backgrounds. So can you explain this?
You see, the caste system relates particularly to India. Now, there are caste systems in Persians as well, but this is coming from more of an Indian background. Was not created by the Lord. This was created by human beings, and it actually started from the Brahmins, and it goes back quite far. Because when the Vedas were put together by the early priests of the time, they people like labeling things. They wanted to divide society into tiers of levels of status, to recognize that the Brahmins or the priests were above everybody else. It was very egotistical. Yeah. So they said, well, okay, look, here's the Brahmins, right? So they are the priests and the teachers. We have to be the top of the rung in society. The next level from that then will be the warriors and the fighters and so on, because they defend us. So their job was to defend us. We're the teachers, they defend us against the others. Yeah, and then we had others like farmers and so on. So there's different levels. They decided that society should be divided, but this was divided in India. It's got nothing to do with spirituality, but this is all part of the karma of the nation. Remember, it is not only us individually that's going through karmic experience, but each nation is going through karmic experience. The earth is going through karmic experience. The solar system is going through it, and so is the universe. Everything is unfolding in a predetermined way. So because of this, everything that happens in a set sequence, in a certain way. So we shouldn't really criticize too much. We should instead understand how these things come about. And if we feel that in our heart that it's not fair, then yeah, don't take part in it. Don't agree with it if you think it is unfair, right? Because everybody should be equal. Equality, this is what all the saints teach. This is what the holy books teach. Actually, we're all equal. But some religious people like to say that some people are more equal than others. Yeah. They use this truth to determine what they think equality means. And in the Indian caste system, the priest felt justified in a human perspective to say that, well, we're priests. We're the top monkey in the tree, right? Everybody else is below us. And that wasn't enough, because then everybody said, well, what about me? Where are we in this study? He said, oh, well, you're at this tier level, and they're going to give you names in this caste. So now when people were born to a particular family, they were labeled by that caste, you see. But good thing about the Guru Granth Sahib is it's full of examples of people of so-called low caste, according to Indian society, who were equally stated in the Guru Granth Sahib, like, for example, Guru Ravidas. Yeah, he was considered low caste by the caste system, but his teachings upheld themselves against the truth. They are no different to Kabir or Guru Nanak or anything in his level of their teachings. So this caste system is a man-made phenomenon, not God-made.
Thank you. What are the biggest setbacks for humanity when it comes to the creation of religions?
I think we've explained all that already, really, of how religion seeks to divide humankind into social-cultural groups, whereas spirituality is unique in that no matter what cultural group you belong to or don't belong to, you have an equal crack at this high truth by searching within yourself or asking within yourself for this high truth, the higher knowing self. Yeah, so spirituality is very individual-centered. It's not mass belief-based. Religions tend to be cultural mass belief groupings. So you go together as a group and you all chant the same thing and hail the same God externally. Whereas a spiritual truth seeker is searching for that truth within themselves, wholly within themselves, doesn't involve anybody else. It's a completely different path.
Thank you. Do previous religious leaders like Jesus, Buddha, Prophet Muhammad and Ramakrishna have to be born as human again and meet a perfect saint, perfect Sant Satguru on earth here before they can ascend to Sachkhand and beyond? And they go on to say, there is one Alan Miller of the Divine Truth Movement in Queensland, Australia, who claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
People can claim many things. The proof is, can they take one to the level that Jesus mentions? If they can take one to that level of awakening, then maybe he is. Yeah. The proof in the pudding is in the eating, as they say. So anybody can claim anything. But does their level of knowledge, their lifestyle, and their ability back this up? So claiming is one thing, reality is something else. So it's not for me to comment on that. But yes, I mean, as I said before, there are many levels of masters. Some from the astral realm, some from the causal realm. Now, of those ones who are stuck in that thing, they have to come back. And they have to come back to continue their journey. They're on their special journey as well. You know, it's not just individual human beings. We like to separate ourselves, say we're less than them. So let's say we look at ourselves as the Buddha. We say, oh wow, Buddha is mighty and we're nothing. We're filth in comparison. No. You're of the same divine glory as the Buddha. The difference is the Buddha became realized. And you're not. If that's the only difference, but you are actually of the same origin, what of it? It's like you have a king and he has two sons. One son becomes a great scientist and the other son decides that he wants to do charity work and helping the poor. Yeah, and the king may look at his sons and say they're doing something different, like one is giving me a proud name by earning more money for me to live as a king, and the other one is just doing charity work and is useless so-so, but they're still my sons. Both are still the sons. That status doesn't change. So the same thing happens in life. You know, we have people of different levels of attainment and we give them names. So we say this one is this name, that one isn't. You know, it's okay. If you do this without judgment, then this is fine. Because you're just recognizing the attainment level of some individual. When it becomes more than that, more than just an observation, when it becomes an object of worship or devotion, then there could be a problem. So I don't want to comment on those individuals that they named, but I'm saying that those ones who have not attained the level of the soul, perfect soul, they have to come back like anybody else, whether they're a great Mahatma, great teacher or sage, or they're an ordinary individual. They're still in the karmic system.
Okay. Next question. My sister passed on January the 1st this year. Now all religions believe in everlasting heaven and hell. Does every human being after death have to experience both heaven and hell, since good deeds do not cancel out bad deeds? When one goes to heaven or hell, would they recognize other relatives who may be there?
No. Firstly, I'm sorry to hear that the sister's passed away, and I hope that this our questioner is coping well with that, and I wish them all well with that. Now, not all religions believe in heaven and hell directly. For example, in Hinduism, they don't really have a concept of hell directly, and even in the Guru Granth Sahib, there's no direct mention of hell. They really mention a better place and a worse place to be after death. So we can agree on that, rather than giving it a specific label with a specific meaning. Now, it's not the case that every human being has to experience heaven and hell before they go home. But depending on the character that they've been adopted with, the mindset that they've taken, some do like to go to hell. They want to have a look. What is it all about? What's the worst possibility in this karmic realm, in this particular form of creation? What's the worst thing that can happen to us? We don't want to hear about it. We want to be there. We want to go to hell and visit it for a while. So sure, they go there. Others say, I want to know what this type of heaven is of the mind. What's the mind version of such kind? Called a heaven, right? Where it's all fancy fruits and nice things and gardens of Eden and everything. I want to have a little experience of that. But then there are others who say, I'm not interested in any of this. It's all Maya. I just want to go straight home. So yeah, there are people with different mindsets, different ways of looking at things. They're created that way. So they want to have different types of experiences. So that's on an individual basis. Now, yes, good deeds don't cancel bad deeds. See, in a human way, we have something called mitigation. So let's say you've done something wrong, but then you start being a good person. Then what happens is they say, okay, we're going to lighten the sentence or reduce the consequence of your bad deeds because you were such a good person from now. Mitigation. Yeah? In karmic rules are absolute rule. It's an absolute rule. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If you kill a person one day and the rest of the day you spend saving a million others, those million souls you saved do not cancel the one that you killed. You still have to go to hell for the period that you killed that one lifetime, human lifetime. But then you can enjoy heaven for 100 lifetimes because you saved 100 people. Both have to be satisfied. That's the law of karma. Yeah, it doesn't work according to human law. One doesn't cancel out the other. And the question I think asked about, will they meet and recognize their relatives there? No, because the relatives you have in, say, the astral realm are of that realm. They're nothing to do with the physical. So when you go to the astral realm, you won't recognize your son living here in the physical, because the relationship you have here is totally independent of that. So there's no question of you, just like when you're born again, you have no recollection of your past mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. You come here, which is why a lot of people believe that they're only born once, because they can't recall anything. But we have certain children who can recall their past life and say, no, that's my mother. And they can describe the home, everything in detail. They've been here before. That's an amazing thing, proving that we come again. But why have we forgotten all this? In order to play our part perfectly well, we cannot have that baggage on our case. Who would trust their mother in this life if they knew they had 100 mothers before? So, yes, the slate is wiped clean, but it's not erased. Yeah, it's stored in the subconscious mind. And when you progress spiritually, you can actually go into your subconscious mind and see your entire past. Right back from when you entered into creation, is stored in the subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind feeds your current mind, your current thinking. It's the background behind your personality. So your particular likes and dislikes, phobias and fears, habits, all are determined by the subconscious mind with the impressions of many past lives. So your natural nature is not random. It's actually built up upon all your past experiences.
So that notion of when someone dies and then they go to wherever they go, they don't see other people that have passed and meet up with them.
No.
Okay.
This is a comfort thing. In the absence of truth, when you want to comfort somebody, just make something up. It's a good, like we tell stories to kids. When you say to the child, 6-year-old says, how was I born? You don't tell them the gruesome details. You make a story, say, well, we got you from the hospital. We went there, we picked you and we got you. And we're very grateful. But when the child gets older, a little bit more comprehension, he understands how he was born. But So this is the way it works in the world here as well with information. Information is given at a level that you can understand. So in the past, a lot of the people who, when they were missing their relatives, oh, I'm really missing this one, they said, okay, you'll meet them in the heaven. There's no evidence of that. But it's just they say that as a comfort. It's okay. It's a comfort.
So does that mean there's no real words of comfort for this person whose sister has passed?
But the thing is that they should always wish well for their individual that's passed on. Don't pull them back by yearning for them to be back here, because that's stopping their progress. That sister is going through their own evolution. If you're pulling them back to this creation, you're delaying their progress. So do them a favor. If you claim to love this sister of yours, then you let her go and wish her well. Bon voyage, yeah? Wish them well. Don't attach yourself to them and say, no, they've departed, I want them back here, I miss them. No, this is wrong. And in fact, the holy books tell you this as well.
Thank you. Is any religion capable of teaching us all the full truth in this lifetime, or are they only concerned with creating a better afterlife?
We've spent much talking about the religions. I think we've already answered that question in so many ways. So
that's fine. What will happen to the main religions in the upcoming decades? Which one will be the first to fall and the last to survive?
I always say that if anybody actually has the daring to ask a question, I'm compelled to answer it. But how I answer it is of my own choosing, but I'm compelled to answer the question. In this century, there's going to be many changes to the belief system. Let me start off with the positive. A spiritual science will become the norm after 2055. Yeah, there will be no religions left at that time in the traditional sense. They'll all be relegated to folklore, ancestral heritage, and so on, as I mentioned before. So you could say, now which one is going to be the first, which one's the last? I dare not say, right? But let's say you can look around you and see which ones seem to be losing numbers. Yeah, the ones who are losing the following quickest, it could be argued that they are going to be the first to go. So as people evolve and they are more truth seekers, because that's one thing about this century, we've entered Dwapar Yuga now, and what's so special about Dwapar Yuga is that there are more truth seekers than ever has been in the past two Kali Yuga periods. So we're in a unique position being born in this time to see the progress of truth in the creation. And this means that people are going to want to move away from the concept of names like God. What does that mean? There's so many different levels of God. So all these abstract forms of worship where you have to believe in something blindly, the future generation not to accept this. They want proof. So part of what we're doing here is laying the foundation as well for the future, where people will understand that truth does exist, but not through the standard format of a religion or so on. But the higher truth occurs within them through a simple inquiry process and a yearning and a passion for it. If that happens in them, they can start engaging in this truth practice, but then they need a little instruction. So we have something called spiritual science. Now, spiritual science is, you could say that it's going to replace the religions, in that it's going to be a scientific method, a practical method of finding the truth for yourself. And that's going to appeal to the future generation. They want all this poetry and waffle. Yeah, these quotes and sayings from the holy books are really nice, but they don't take you anywhere. They're just entertainment for the mind. But if you actually do a practice that reveals the truth to you, that is far more interesting and beneficial than reading about somebody else's account of the truth. You can go on reading till the end of the days. Yeah, you'll never get that experience. But if you do a practice that allows you to see what they say, oh, I know what they saw and more. They wrote only this part of it, but actually it's that big. Because books are limited.
Thank you. I've got a few specific questions related to a specific religion, and this religion is Islam. Why does Islam seem to have so much violence and hatred within it, specifically to non-Muslims around the world?
You see, it's not the problem of the teaching. Islam means peace. The actual literal translation of Islam is peace. So therefore, it should be a religion of peace. They actually labelled it so, which is interesting. But how do you interpret that? We talk about different levels of consciousness, different levels of human attainment. Now, the people of the desert were tribal, and they practiced something called Arabic law, Sharia law, which is a very harsh law, right? That mentality, when the Quran was revealed there by Prophet Muhammad, that mentality of the way that things are going to be practiced came along with them, with that. So when the revelations of truth were given, they had to shape it into something called a tradition. So the traditions that were adopted in how they're going to interpret the revelations was given by the culture of that day. In this case, tribal Arab culture. So the tribal Arab culture was merged with the revelations of Prophet Muhammad to create what we call today Islam. Now, the problem is that a lot of the cultural ideals are basically survival mentality. The idea of survival. You have to understand the origins of Islam. It grew up in a predominantly Jewish Christian background where these tribal peoples were at war, at odds with the surrounding population all the time. So when Prophet Muhammad gave his revelations, and he gave it specifically to the Arab people, now they had something to follow. They had something that made them special. They were no longer outcasts. So they adopted this Mohammedan method, or the Islamic method, and they put their traditions onto it. Now they had a unity of force, a unifying force. Now they could compete against the established religions of Christianity and Judaism at the time. So this led to the idea that they need to get their lands under their control. Then the caliphate was originated. So the caliphate system in the Sunnis were the largest sect of Islam, by the way. 90% are Sunnis. So we're going to talk about that from the point of view. There are other sects of Islam like Sufism, which are akin to Sikhism, which are a wholly different thing. They believe in holy mass and so on. But let's look at the Sunni system. And they formed the caliphs, the 4 caliphs. Yeah. And they called it the righteous period. Now these caliphs followed the father-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakr, because he was elder and he was kind of a little bit more of a proactive Muslim who'd go out there and say, no, we should convert people, we should force them to change, and we should gather and expand. So he believed in expansion. So a lot of the people said, yeah, great, we now have something to fight for. They started expanding, and their method of expansion was through conquering, conquest, and forced conversion. So imagine if that's your background, how are you going to view the way that you should portray your religion to the world? So these military groups, these groups of activists, they promoted it that way. Whereas the other peaceful Muslims were quite happy just to go about their own business. It's not the entirety of Islam. So now going back to today, there is still a small select group of Muslims who harp on back to those glory days of the Caliph. Yeah, when they conquered and expanded Islam to conquer the entire Middle East and even parts of Europe and so on. They did amazing things. So they live back in that time. They want those glory days back today. So they decided that the way they're going to do this is the same method that was used back then. And that's the problem. So now we have this Islam, this religion of peace, being translated into a jihad or a religion of war, right? And that's not true. It's just a way of interpretation by a particular group of individuals. I have to say that most Muslims are peaceful. And they're not interested in conquering anybody or converting anybody or anything. They just live peacefully. But there are a significant minority people who do fight for this old Arabic tribal mentality style. And they live in that way. So that's the problem. It's not that the religion itself teaches hate and violence and so on. It's actually practitioners who've taken a bit of a wrong turn for some of them.
Thank you. Why, still keeping with Islam, why are there so many immoral things that Islam permits and that you are punished for not obeying them?
No, this is Sharia law. Sharia law, like I said, the tradition was adopted into Islam. Now, Sharia law hasn't got any direct relevance to Islam, but it's relevant to the tribal peoples of the time who followed Islam. So they needed some sort of traditional law practice method in which to live their life. So they simply adopted what they already knew. So it is that Sharia law, or that part of it, that what we see today as offensive or immoral by our modern standards. But back in those days, it was a male-dominated society, and yes, women were objects of property that a man could possess and do what he wants with. Now, to us, in this modern world of equality, we are horrified by that. But you have to understand that back in the day, that was normal for them. So they've simply carried those glory days of the past again to the present. Not every Muslim agrees with this, I have to say. There are a lot of scholars and everything who question this and say, well, this is not actually part of the original concept of Islam. And the original concept of Islam, from Prophet Muhammad's point of view, is that women are equal to men. He specifically mentions that. And he also said that everybody's equal with each other. You know, he championed the Christians and the Jews. He said they're all on the path of the Lord. He didn't separate them, but the later tribal systems and traditions are the ones that create the problem.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is the word jihad misunderstood in there?
Yes, it is.
Is jihad really mean war with the mind?
Yes. It's actually struggle, personal struggle. The jihad, for example, Prophet Muhammad, 3 times he was initiated by his master, and that's another question about Prophet Muhammad's own journey. And each time he did this, he was going through his own jihad. So he mentions this in the Hadith, which is the other book, holy book of Islam, that Muslims support alongside the Quran. It is claimed to be the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, which are not included in the Quran. And in the Hadith, it mentions about personally him surrendering himself to his master, his advisor of the time. And he specifically describes that he was going through a jihad. And that personal struggle where he was in a state of confusion and doubt and you know, not in a very good place. So he went to his master for bayat, for renewing his bayat, which is in Islam means pledging of allegiance. Yeah, bayat is similar to discipleship. Yeah, so he went to renew. So yeah, jihad means that. The actual Arabic word, I think, for war is, I think, abar or ahar, something like that. That's the actual correct term for war.
So G means mind.
My struggle, jihad.
No, G means mind. And
Yeah.
had means war. That's the meaning of
The
jihad.
Arabic, no, it's not translated as war. The correct interpretation of had is struggle or personal struggle. But you can translate it to war.
There are different.
Yeah. But the actual original meaning, literal, we're talking about literal translation, literally means struggle. Yeah. And so but the later Muslims, because what Prophet Muhammad did when he went through difficult phases, they decided we want to be like our Prophet. So we're going to we're going to hijack the term jihad and turn it into a war where now we're going to kill everybody who's an infidel wherever we may find him. Yes.
You mentioned that Muhammad was initiated.
Yes.
So who was his master?
It's a question for another time. Let the historians find out. But he did have a master that was actually well known at the time, a sheikh at the time. Yeah. But I'm not going to mention it now. This is not about that, you know. But yes, he had a master and he recognized his master.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, go on.
I'll ask one last question. Would I be correct in saying that Islam does not meet the correct criteria of being called a religion?
Does not meet the criteria. I think it meets every criteria of being a religion. Being divisive and being culturally separatist from others, elitist. Yeah, I think it perfectly fits the bill.
That's it. We did run over and I didn't get to ask all of them, but what I'll do for those people that have given questions, I'll add them to next month's. Does that sound?
Right, do you have any questions from the audience?
I wanted to ask, do perfect living masters hold satsangs on the inner stages?
In the inner realms?
Yeah.
No, they don't hold satsangs. But they are personally there for their individual disciples. So if you could say personal meetings, yes, they have personal meetings. So their disciples who meet them in the inner realms, the master guides them. But to say that the master is giving group satsang to a group of individuals from each realm, no, that doesn't happen like that.
Here, in the physical realm, initiate knows what the plan of action is, which is to meditate and go within.
Yes.
What is the plan of action on the inner stages?
It depends which stage. If you're talking about the mind realms,
Astral.
yeah, if you talk about the astral realm, then it's the same thing. You meditate on your eye center there. although you're an astral being, you still look like a human, and you still have the eye center. So you're asked there by the master to meditate on the truth within you in the same way that you're told here. When you go to the causal realm, things are a little different because you have no form, no shape, but you still have a center of attention. So the master then asks you to focus on your center of attention there. Even if you're a puff of smoke, you still have a center of attention from which that smoke emanates. And you're asked to meditate there in much the same way, except you're not sitting in a certain position, but you're giving up, you're chanting there. Now things change completely when you cross the mind realm. When you enter Parbrahm, there's no meditation at all. This is a path of attraction, of surrender. This is the first level of true surrender to a perfect living master that occurs at the level of Parbrahm. So you attach yourself and merge with the master. In order to cross from the mind realm, giving up your ego, your I, and cross into the realm of the soul, you have to merge with the master. So at that point, that's where the master plays a very important role, because without having a master in your life, there's no way you can cross the mind realm. You'll never leave it. It's just impossible. You have to give up the mind to something higher than it is. So you surrender your mind to the master, who is beyond the level of mind and Maya. So that one is an appropriate individual to surrender it. Nothing in the mind realm, nothing in the causal realm, even the deities, they're all part of their gameplay of the mind. You can surrender to them, but you'll still be there. You'll never leave the mind realm. That's why you need a Sant Satguru, or a master, a perfect living master, one who comes from Satgurus, to whom you can pledge complete surrender. So this is why you need a living master even in the physical, because you can do that even while you're here. You don't have to wait until you get to the causal realm. You can surrender at this level and cross the causal realm and go into Parbrahm.
Here, a master will tell you within your lifetime, reach the ultimate or go within, meditate, etc. Whereas in the inner realm, there is no time. So how is the master explaining to you to move on?
No, time still does exist, but time operates differently in the regions. For example, here time is fairly linear, right? But it's not a straight line. It actually goes round in circles. It's a spiral linear, which is interesting, which is why there are certain anomalies in time that we find here on Earth, where this ability to time travel a little bit or to go back to a bit of a spiral. But that's a subject for another day that we could go to the science of quantum mechanics. But yeah, that's time, which is where string theory comes in. And in the astral realm, time runs forward and backwards. So you can go back in time and relive something, actually, or you can go forward a little bit faster. You can fast forward. But you can never stop time. You can't stop time in the astral realm at all. You can suspend it for a bit. You can have a pause, what they call a diapause, which is not a real pause, a diapause, which is just where you suspend yourself at the moment in a sleep or slumber state. You can do that in the astral realm. In the causal realm, time operates differently again, because in the causal realm, you can actually stop time and you can create different lines of time. You don't have to stick to the one you're playing. You can play other roles of time. So you can create new ones for yourself, all within the causal realm, all fantasy, but you can still create different timelines for yourself. You can have different scenarios. Because after all, when you reach the level of universal mind, you become the totality of mind. And therefore you could play any part. You could be a king there. You could be the number 3 or the color purple or a tree. You could be anything you like. You can create that. So time there is much, in the causal realm, you can manipulate time in much greater ways than you can do in the other realm. So yeah, time still exists though. You're still progressing through a karmic evolution state. It's just that it looks like you're playing around with the time element. There, you're still playing around with time, but you're still actually siderically or universally following the universal time. Yeah, you can't escape that. None of the lower creation can get out of time. Only when you get out of the time realm, then no time exists. So when you reach the liberation of the soul realm, the Parbrahm, there's no time. And therefore there's no place, no space. No space, no time. There's just awareness. So the type of existence there is not an experience. It's an awareness. Awareness does not need a separate object. If you're aware of yourself, you only need yourself. You don't need to have a separate object. If you want to have an experience, you create duality, and you have an object there, and you're now the experiencer experiencing the object over there in space and time. So that's an experience is totally different from awareness. That's why it's very difficult to write in mind terms anything that goes on in Parbrahm and beyond, because there's no place and no time and no doing as such. Yeah, there's just following the track, the railroad track, yeah, that's been laid out for you. And you're just aware of what's happening. It's an awareness state where every moment exists now. In the spiritual realm, there's only now. There's no past, no present, no future. It's just now. Because awareness always operates in the now. You see, so that's the difference. Yeah.
Can I just ask a very small question?
Yes,
you can
yes.
shorten this answer possibly as much as you can.
Yes.
In this life, physical world, this is our reality.
Yeah.
When we sleep,
Yeah.
the dream becomes our reality.
Yes.
I think every seeker has this question.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're doing in astral world.
Well, we do have an alternative experience in the astral world. For example, your astral being is undergoing its own timeline of events. You're going along. You see, in the astral realm, there's no thing as choice making. Everything is laid out in front of you, so you know entirely what you're doing. So your astral form is undergoing its own experience, right? But it knows what its experiences are, so it's still going on its own journey, because you still have karma in the astral realm that must be met out. That can only be met out in the astral realm.
So
They're
it's
not related
sleeping.
to the physical.
It's not sleeping like we become a different reality.
No. You're not asleep.
Okay.
You're not asleep in the realm. Neither are you asleep in the causal realm. You are undergoing your timeline of events, right? But the difference is they're different because they're appropriate to that level. When you go there from the physical and you meet your astral self there, you see yourself there performing these events. And you think, hold on, that is my reality. So what I'm doing in the earth is not real. That's why people have such a profound experience when they go into the astral realm. Because when they come back here, they realize this is a dream. And that's reality. Yes.
Your astral version, is it concerned with your physical timeline?
No.
It's totally separate.
It's not totally separate, but it's not. It doesn't consider itself. It doesn't look at what you're doing physically. Just like you do not know what your astral body is doing, do you? Right now, are you concerned with it? No. You don't know what it's doing. So in a similar way, the astral beings are focused on the timeline of events. Imagine you're on a railroad, and you can only go in a direction at a certain speed, and you have to go through the speed. What room is there to wander about?
So would that be the same for Perfect Living Master as well? So while he's concerned with satsangs here and doing his bit on the physical, in the astral, he's doing totally something separate.
In the astral, he has an individual relationship with each, which is unique there because it doesn't happen here. Here, because of the logistics of travel, like there, you don't have that. It's a spiritual world, therefore there's no limit to travel. Here we're limited, so the master has to be a figurehead somewhere and preach to a crowd. In the astral realm, there's no crowd business. You have the individual attention of the master. Every single one. Huh?
Constantly.
Yes.
The
Constantly.
master never leaves you in the astral.
Not really.
Around.
No. The master doesn't go around. Leaving...
No,
He doesn't leave you, but when you're focused on a task that the master instructed you, then you may not be immediately aware that the master is there. But it's not because the master leaves you, it's your focus of attention that leaves the radiant form of the master.
What
Yeah.
would be an example of a task in the astral?
For example, he says to you to meditate in a particular way, in a particular thing, because your astral karmas are a little different to the ones here. So the method of clearing that out is slightly different. So it might mean that you have to undergo a certain experience during meditation itself, rather than actually having the experience. You go through that like a dream, like you have a dream and you become this individual and you do something. So there you have to become absorbed in that particular activity to clear that account. Yeah. Once that's paid off, then you can carry on back. Then you awaken, let's say, or you become aware of the master and you can then wait for the next instruction. So the relationship between master and disciple is a little different to here.
Are you also able to get trapped there as well?
Not if you have a master. The master won't let you. The master won't. But if you go individually, yes, of course. It's so wonderful there. It is a Garden of Eden. Imagine going to a Garden of Eden where everything is there for you. Who would not love that from a mind point of view? So the master has to. The reality of keep meeting the master in radiant form is to stop you from wandering away. The master keeps your attention on him. He said, just look at me, don't look around, because you're going to get distracted. That's why you meet the radiant form of the master there. Not only for instruction, but also to focus your attention on something, so that you don't wander off. Yeah? Is that it? Are we all done? Yeah, it's been a long session today.
I have a million more questions.
We can always ask that another time. Please save them, and if you could put them into a group where they could be answered in one go, that would be very good. So thank you all for your most patient sitting during this long session, and I wish you all a happy new year, of course, here in the UK. And I look forward to seeing you next month. God bless.
Thank you.
So dehi paje har ki sev pajo gobind pul mat ja मानस जानम का एही ला